I was still picking confetti out of my son's hair when the knock echoed through our apartment. The night before, my cousin had smiled into a microphone and asked what he was doing at her wedding. He, my 7-year-old, autistic, in a little blue button-down he'd practiced wearing all week. We slipped out without a scene. I buckled him in, whispered that he did nothing wrong, and drove home with the windows cracked so the air could talk us down. By morning, our quiet routine tried to knit itself back together. Visual cards on the fridge, his weighted blanket folded like a hug we kept handy, the cabinet locks he liked to check himself because click sounded like control. I brewed coffee. He lined up dinosaur cards. For 3 minutes, the world behaved. Then the knock came again, measured, official. When I opened the door, a clipboard looked past me and wrote my life down like it already knew the ending. The caseworker's eyes paused on the plastic covers I kept on the couch for spills, on the mattress on the floor we used for sensory nights, on the locks we installed after he discovered how tall chairs could make him. Concerning, she said, the way people say weather. She asked where his father was. She asked if I understood the seriousness. She asked to see our kitchen, his room, the bathroom, my patients. I wanted to explain everything, how the blanket worked like gravity for him, how our schedule on the fridge kept school mornings from breaking, how the wedding rehearsal had turned a child into a problem to be solved in heels. I wanted to tell her about the way he presses his palm to mine when he needs a landing strip. Instead, I followed her through my own home and watched her write. Someone had filed a report. I already knew who reached for the phone 5 minutes after my toast ended. When the door shut behind them, I set the timer on my stove for 5 minutes and let my body shake while it counted down. When it beeped, I stood up, opened the Notes app, and typed 3 lines: time, words, names. That was the moment I stopped auditioning for sympathy and started preparing for courtrooms. I didn't want to fight. I wanted a record. And I was about to get one. I used to measure mornings by the sound of our dishwasher and the click of cabinet locks. If the dishwasher hummed and the locks answered, we were inside our rhythm. Rhythm was how my autistic son and I made a home inside a world that often wanted a performance. On our fridge, I kept a row of laminated cards. First bathroom, then socks. First breakfast, then backpack. It wasn't militant. It was gentle scaffolding. I taped a little picture of the sun at the top because mornings felt kinder when they had a face. Mikey liked to move the cards with his own fingers, the way some kids like to cross off lists. When he slid a card from first to then, the corners made a soft plastic hiss that calmed him almost as much as the doing did. I think of that sound whenever people say the word accommodations like it's extra. To me, it sounded like dignity. Our calm corner sat by the bookshelf, soft lamp, beanbag that remembered him, a shelf of dinosaur cards he could organize into families. The weighted blanket lived there, folded like a waiting hug. On electric days when his body needed to jump, I pulled the mattress down to the floor. Jumping turned lightning into rain. We kept a box of chew-safe necklaces and silicone rings in a drawer near the couch. His favorite was blue and smooth on one side, bumpy on the other, and he would flip it in his mouth the way some people roll coins through their fingers when they're thinking. His dad worked evenings. We weren't together, but we were allies. We texted like air traffic controllers. I can do pickup. Can you pack noise canceling today? Picture schedule updated, PE day, sneakers and backpack. On nights he delivered Mikey home, he always checked the cabinet locks himself, 1, 2, 3, and waited for the little click as if the sound were a shared prayer. It was. Safety is not the absence of danger. It's the presence of systems that remember you. We saw Dr. Chen twice a year, more in growth spurts. She had a way of looking at my son that made me unclench. The first time she said, accommodations aren't indulgence. They're ramps you can't see. I wrote it in my phone because I knew there would be days I needed that sentence more than anyone around me. I wasn't preparing to argue with the world. I was preparing to stay kind while it stared. School was a mosaic of good intentions and hallways that echoed too much. We worked with his teacher to write an IEP that was actually useful. Visual schedules at eye height, sensory breaks that weren't treated like rewards, and the kind of transition warnings that keep small bodies from feeling ambushed. I sent one short email at the start of each quarter with a subject line that never scared anyone. FYI, accommodation clarification. No action requested. It listed 4 lines only. Visual schedule, quiet corner, weighted blanket at rest time. Sensory breaks, 5 at 2. 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off, twice before lunch. I didn't include his whole story. I learned that giving people the tools they could use beat handing them a memoir they couldn't. Our neighborhood learned us too. Morgan across the hall taught special ed. She was the kind of neighbor who watered plants without being asked and texted, "Hallway is loud today, headphones?" Before we opened the door. On Saturdays, we said hi to the barista who spelled my name with just an initial because I once explained that Mikey liked things short and predictable. In the little grocery on Pine, the clerk kept applesauce pouches at kid-eye level and knocked 10 cents off when Mikey remembered to say, "Please." When strangers used the word tantrum for what is not a tantrum, I didn't correct them. But at the end cap with the paper towels, I practiced my 3-line script under my breath so it would be ready when I needed it. Script. Family strangers, copy and paste. He's autistic. This behavior is communication. We're okay and we have a plan. The week of the wedding, our home became a little training camp. We practiced wedding rules every day. Whisper voice, hands to self, eyes on the flowers. And I played the processional on my phone until the melody felt like furniture we could lean on. He wore his sky blue button-down for an hour each afternoon to desensitize the collar tag and the texture of the placket against his sternum. I sewed a tiny square of soft fabric under the collar where it rubbed. Clothing is a language. Sometimes I forget that most people don't have to translate it every morning. I packed the sensory bag like a backcountry hiker, except our mountain was a room full of perfume, a microphone, laughter in bursts, and chairs that scrape. Headphones? Check. Chewy necklace? Check. Fidget spinner with bearings that didn't squeal? Check. Applesauce pouch with a straw. 2 wipes. A folded copy of the picture schedule in case the one on the fridge suddenly mattered in a pew. And 1 new dinosaur card I'd bought at the Science Museum gift shop for exactly the moment his eyes needed a familiar world inside a loud one. The card was a Parasaurolophus. He loved the crest and the way the name felt like a drum roll in your mouth. I also packed my mother voice, not the one with sugar, the one with landing strip in it. If you know, you know. It's the voice that makes a small body feel like the runway lights are on. It starts in your stomach and ends on the inside of your child's palm. We had a squeeze code, 2 presses for "I'm trying," 3 for "I need help." That week he practiced squeezing twice and saying "trying." And I practiced not narrating for rooms that didn't deserve our explanations. People sometimes ask why we went to the rehearsal if it required so much planning. Love is a schedule too. Family events were part of our normal, and I am stubborn about normal. Also, I believed my cousin when she said the rehearsal would be low-key. She texted a heart emoji. I chose to take it at face value. There's a kind of optimism that isn't naive. It's the way you give the room a chance to be better than you remember it. One more thing lived on our fridge that week. A laminated strip I called the 3-line log. It had 3 blanks, time, words, names, and I filled it each night like toothbrushing. It wasn't a diary. It was a tool for a tired future me who might need exact language without adrenaline's edits. I learned to keep logs after a rough kindergarten year when a substitute misread a sensory meltdown as defiance and spent a week trying to discipline lightning. The principal, who was reasonable, fixed it. But she liked times and direct quotes more than feelings. I started to like them too. On Friday afternoon, while the house smelled like laundry and fish sticks, the past tapped our present. An aunt texted a joke, "Bring the special headphones so he doesn't scream," with a winky face that made my jaw tight. I typed, "Received," and put my phone face down. Then I added a new card under the 3-line log. Door line to family. Copy and paste. I don't discuss my child's health by text or phone. For logistics, email purpose, plus 2 noon options. I didn't send it. I kept it because sometimes the only person who needs to hear your boundary is you. The morning of the rehearsal, Mikey set his dinosaur cards in a precise diagonal across the counter. He asked if T-Rex could come, and I said, "T-Rex is a little loud for church." He touched the smallest Parasaurolophus card with 1 finger, the way you touch a friend's sleeve, before you leave them at the door. I tucked the card into my pocket anyway. Insurance. We practiced whisper voice in the car because cars can be classrooms, and he pressed my palm twice. I'm trying as we crossed the parking lot. He sat at the end of a pew where our exit was clean. I had the sensory bag on the floor by my feet and a foam earplug in my pocket. A last resort trick for the unexpected. The church smelled like hairspray and fresh flowers. His shoulders were down. My shoulders were down. For 10 minutes, the room and my son agreed about what evening it was. If the story ended there, this would be a video about a child and a mother who did their best and a family who made room. It didn't end there. The room chose a different story. But before it did, I want to write down the one we were living, so later no one could pretend we hadn't. A boy who followed the rules, a mother who carried a bag full of ways to make rooms kinder, a schedule with pictures, a blanket like gravity, love shaped like structure. I have an impulse to soften the next part, but softening is for pillows. What happened next asked me to be a folder, so I folded. I packed our bag under the pew and rehearsed the sentence I keep for rooms that forget their job. If I needed it, I would use it once, in the kitchen voice that cooks dinner and pays bills and doesn't audition. I didn't know that 3 words on a microphone could rewrite an evening, or that 5 minutes after my toast, someone would reach for a phone and try to rename our life. We stayed in the exit row because that's where we belong, close to doorways, good at leaving, when leaving is the kindest thing you can do for a room. I wish I could tell you the room chose us back. It didn't. But we chose each other, and sometimes that is the only vote that matters. When we got home that night, after everything, I folded the weighted blanket and put the parasaurolophus card on the nightstand by the lamp so he would see it first in the morning. I didn't know the morning would bring a knock that sounded like a gavel. I didn't know I would measure the next month in PDFs. But I knew this. Our normal existed. It had edges and sounds and a staircase of steps. And no one gets to erase a family by speaking louder than it. I believed our systems would hold. I believed in Dr. Chen and the teacher who kept the visual schedule at eye height and the cabinet locks that clicked like small prayers. I believed in the 3-line log. I believed in my voice through wood. The rest of the story would test those beliefs. Before it did, I made sandwiches, set the dishwasher, and listened for the hum that meant we were still, somehow, inside our rhythm. The church was all elbows and expectation, chairs scooting, women fixing hair in phone cameras, a coordinator counting like a metronome with a clipboard. We chose the back pew on the aisle, the exit row, because I've learned that loving my child sometimes means loving the door. Mikey traced the grooves in the wood with one index finger and whispered our 3 rules. Hands, quiet, eyes. He smiled. I smiled back and tapped the sensory bag with my shoe like a pilot checking fuel. At 9:44 p.m., the coordinator called for children to line up. Mikey wasn't in the wedding party. The plan was simply to sit, clap, and leave when it got too loud. The microphone squealed and quieted. The bridesmaids practiced gliding. A groomsman pretended the microphone was a lightsaber, and a few men laughed. It wasn't our room, but it wasn't hostile. Not yet. The moment came at 9:47. I know because I wrote it down before adrenaline could edit it. My cousin lifted the microphone, scanned the sanctuary, and stopped on us. "What is he doing here?" she said, sweet and sharp at the same time, like a sugar rim on a glass with vinegar inside. Her friends turned. Someone raised a phone, not for the couple, but to catch the small scandal in the back row. Mikey froze, shoulders to ears, hands flattening like birds trying not to fly. I felt the familiar ripples in him, the surge that says too bright, too many eyes, too much. This is the place where some people beg their child to be good for strangers. I begged the room to be good for my child, and when it couldn't, I chose the door. I had a sentence ready, because I practice sentences the way other people practice eyebrows. Mirror line, copy and paste. We were so happy to celebrate. We'll step outside so the focus stays on you. Have a beautiful night. I said it once, with my kitchen voice, the voice that pays bills and schedules dentist appointments and doesn't audition. I stood, gathered my son's hand and our bag, and walked. We were 4 steps from the door when an ant stage whispered, "Some people just love attention." That sentence always tells on the person who says it. I put my palm to Mikey's, our 2-press code for I'm trying, and counted 4 in, 6 out. He matched me. We reached the lobby. He put his forehead to my chest for 2 breaths, then let me steer him into the cool air. Outside, under the portico, the wings of the building made good sound. Cars passed like slow fish. I gave him the parasaurolophus card from my pocket, the one with the green crest he likes to trace, and told him he had done everything right. He asked if we broke the rules. No, I said. We kept them. He pressed my palm twice and said, trying. I kissed the top of his head and tucked the card back into the sensory bag like a friend we could visit again in the car. Here is the thing that separates how I used to live from how I live now. I didn't go back in to argue about humanity in a room that had decided a story about us. I took 3 minutes in the car, opened my notes app, and wrote a 3-line log before my brain could make a movie. 9:47 p.m. Exact words. What is he doing here? Who and where? Bride on mic. Back pew. Left aisle. 3 phones raised. Behavior. Child quiet. Mother exited without scene. Aunt. Some people love attention. Then I snapped one photo on the church steps. Not of faces, just the top of our visual schedule peeking out of the sensory bag, with the stone steps behind it. I attached it to the note. Not to post. To prove if proof was needed later to someone who speaks PDF. I sat in the car, cracked the windows, and let air crawl across our skin the way air knows how. My cousin's voice floated through the door like a song muffled by a coat. The phone lit up with a group text notification. Family rehearsal dinner. And I didn't open it. I watched my son line up dinosaur cards on his thigh and thought about the line I should have said to the room. He is here because we belong. But rooms built for performance don't accept scripts from the audience. The better line was the one I already used and the one I was about to need again. We'll step outside so the focus stays on you. We drove home by our quiet streets, the ones that keep trash cans tucked back and leave porch lights on low. At a red light, I wrote one more line in the log. If there's fallout, keep all contact in writing. I have learned to be kind to my future self, who can't always be trusted with nuance at 10 a.m. on a Monday when someone knocks. There's a part of the story that still glows hot if I poke it. I wanted the adults in that room to see what I saw. A boy who had kept the rules, a mother who had done the work, a family that had been handed a sentence he didn't deserve. I wanted someone with a microphone to say, "Hey, we don't do that here." No one did. We left anyway. Sometimes leaving is a love language. At home, the apartment smelled like laundry and lemon cleaner, a mix that somehow feels like courage. I set out the weighted blanket, put the blue octopus on his pillow. He likes to squeeze the legs, and slid his shoes into the closet left to right. After he slept, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I didn't need and made a checklist. Email Dr. Chen. First thing, request letter on medical necessity of accommodations. Email, teacher, principal. Request a short letter on progress and typical school supports. Neighbor Morgan, ask for character letter. She sees daily routines. File name pattern ready. YMD type. Subject.pdf. Door line ready for any authority. Happy to cooperate. In writing. Will provide documentation today. I wasn't preparing to fight a person. I was preparing to feed a system the kind of food it digests. Dates, quotes, documents. I would like to tell you that the rehearsal was simply a bad night in a good life, and that the next morning the adults were embarrassed, and the room learned how to apologize. Instead, 5 minutes after my toast ended, timestamp on a text I would receive later, someone called CPS. A microphone turned into a report. A private meanness became a public process. And at 10:06 a.m. the next day, my door carried the sound of a gavel. But that's tomorrow's problem. Tonight's job was to sleep next to a small person who had kept the rules in a room that forgot its job. So I laid on the floor with the weighted blanket, pulled half over both of us, and listened to his breathing slow, then even, then settle. I set my phone to do not disturb, except for Dr. Chen in school. I put the 3-line log on the counter next to my keys. I turned our porch light to dusk because ordinary is the only miracle I trust. When the knock came, I wanted to be the kind of person who doesn't shake. I wasn't. I shook. But I also did the next right boring thing. I said my sentence through wood once, and when the door opened, I guided the conversation to paper. The room that had forgotten us would not get a second performance. If you've never had to exit a place you were invited to, I hope you never do. If you have, you know the intimacy of sidewalks at night and the gift of a car that remembers how you like your seat. You know the mathematics of breath, 4 in, 6 out, and how it feels when a small hand stabilizes your own. You know that kindness is a schedule and love is a log, and sometimes the bravest thing you do is leave without delivering your monologue. I didn't know the video existed yet, the one that would later land in my inbox and hand me the timestamp that made my attorney smile with her eyes. I didn't know a clipboard would try to rename our weighted blanket unsafe and our cabinet locks concerning. I only knew that I had my folder. And when the world makes itself a courtroom, the person with the folder stands a better chance of staying gentle. So I slept, or something adjacent to it. The dishwasher hummed. A cabinet lock clicked as if the house had its own nervous rituals. The sky turned the gray color that makes you forgive cities for their noise. And then morning arrived the way it always does, with a knock I wouldn't have chosen and a sentence I had prepared to say. I remind myself often that our life before the report was real. It didn't vanish because a stranger wrote a story about it into a government form. It had a smell, laundry, and lemon. It had a sound, click, hiss, hum. It had systems that belonged to us. First, then cards, a blanket like gravity, a 3-line log. I keep writing this down, not for sympathy, but so when I tell you what happened next, you'll understand what it tried to erase, and why I didn't let it. Because the very next chapter wasn't a fight. It was a folder. And I'm better with folders than with speeches. Voiceover, first person past tense, warm, steady. The knock at 10:06 a.m. sounded like furniture being moved on the other side of my life. I stood in the hallway and let my hand find the doorframe the way you reach for the rail before the stairs. My son sat cross-legged on the rug, lining up dinosaur cards, a Parasaurolophus balanced at the front like a conductor. I took one breath for me and one for him, and then I did the thing that has saved me more than eloquence ever has. I used my sentence through wood. SPB, said once, kitchen voice, copy-paste. Status, I was safe. Plan, I met in public by appointment. Boundary, I didn't argue at the door or on the phone. I opened 6 inches, chain-latched, and introduced myself. 2 people stood there, one holding a clipboard, and the other a canvas tote that looked like it had swallowed a printer. The woman with the clipboard said her name was Ms. Hayes, and that she was with Child Protective Services. She asked if they could come in and look around. She asked it like a statement. I didn't slam. I didn't perform gratitude. I used the second sentence I had practiced while microwaving oatmeal. Door line to authorities. Copy-paste. I was happy to cooperate. I asked to keep all follow-up in writing. I noted my child's autism accommodations and said I'd provide medical documentation today. She blinked at the word in writing the way people blink at sunlight. We do need to see the home, she said. There was a report of unsafe conditions. The word report turned the air thinner than it had been a second ago. My son shifted a card 1/2 inch. I unlatched the chain, set my shoulders where kitchen voice lives, and said, You may come in. Shoes off, please. Letting them in wasn't surrender. It was a log. I texted myself a timestamp as they crossed the threshold. The one with the tote, Mr. Lowell, started in the kitchen. Ms. Hayes scanned the living room, like the answer to her report might be sitting on the couch wearing a name tag. Her eyes paused on the plastic covers I keep on the couch for spills, then the cabinet locks, then the mattress on the floor we use for jumping on electric days. Concerning, she said, the way people say, fog. I wanted to explain everything at once. I wanted to tell her how the weighted blanket acts like gravity for my boy, how our visual schedule on the fridge keeps school mornings from breaking, how the mattress is a trampoline in a dress shirt, how the locks are there because last summer he discovered chairs are ladders. Instead, I narrated one sentence at a time and anchored each detail to a document I could put in her hand later. The plastic covers help with sensory spills. He likes to pour rice to listen to it. The locks keep cleaner secure. We use them as part of his safety plan. The mattress on the floor is for proprioception. Our pediatrician recommended active jumps to regulate. The weighted blanket is medically recommended for self-soothing. It's not used in sleep without supervision. I used verbs, not apologies. I pointed to the picture schedule and said, first, then. I opened the calm corner and let the beanbag speak for itself. When she asked where his father was, I said, at work. He alternates pickup. We coordinate by text. I can forward schedules if you need them in writing. When she asked if there were medications, I showed her the empty meds bin and the 2 vitamins we keep because a child who eats beige like it's a food group sometimes needs iron to remember math. She wrote, Mr. Lowell snapped photos with his tablet, no faces, and asked me to lift the blanket so he could see the mattress. It's clean, he said, and moved on in search of something less disappointing. They opened the bathroom, checked for mold, like mildew was a plot twist, and nodded at a towel folded like I had been expecting anyone but them. I logged their questions in my head so I could write them down later, exactly as they were asked. When Ms. Hayes said, "Who supervises him at night?" my throat tried to answer with a resume. I gave her the short form. I do. On hard nights, I move the mattress to the floor in my room. I keep the door alarm on. I didn't mention the 1,000 times I lay awake counting his breaths. Feeling doesn't file. Facts do. She asked to speak to my son. He pressed his hands flat on his knees, the way he does in new rooms, and said yes or no to questions he understood. When she asked what the weighted blanket was for, he said, "Heavy. Makes my body quiet." I almost cried, but I didn't because I've learned that tears at the wrong time feed stories that don't keep you. I asked if she would like to see his IEP. She said we could review documents later. The word later pressed into me like a thumb. Then she used a phrase I'd only read in other people's bad days. We're issuing a temporary removal pending assessment. He'll be placed with a foster family for now. My body remembered how to shake without moving. The room narrowed to the width of the index card I'd taped inside my binder for this exact kind of sentence. Quiet rule. Copy-paste. After any hard contact, I observed quiet hours. 24. I allowed received by text, all else later in writing. I kept my voice kitchen. I heard you. Please document the specific safety concerns. I'll respond in writing with medical letters today. She started to say, we don't need, and I said, I will send them anyway. What address? We packed a small bag for my son, headphones, blue octopus, the dinosaur card I pretended not to see him tuck into his pocket. I wrote his bedtime routine on a sticky for strangers who would try but would not know him. 2 stories. Then blanket for 5 minutes, then I picked the song, he told Ms. Hayes. He looked at me for confirmation. I nodded and said the line I'd been telling him since the rehearsal. You did nothing wrong. They left. The door shut. I set the stove timer for 5 minutes and let my body do whatever bodies do after someone takes your kid with paperwork in their hand. When it beeped, I wiped my face with a dish towel, opened notes, and wrote my 3-line log. 10:06-10:41 a.m. CPS home visit. Phrases used: concerning, couch covers, cabinet locks, mattress, temporary removal. My responses: cooperated, requested in writing, offered medical documentation today. Then I opened a blank email and drafted the 3-paragraph summary I send after hard rooms. I learned to write them like HR memos, so even the tired version of a supervisor could follow. Subject: proof, 05-12. CPS visit summary, 10:06-10:41. Facts: 2 CPS workers. Ms. Hayes, Mr. Lowell visited. Observed plastic couch covers, cabinet locks, weighted blanket, mattress on floor. Described as concerning. No hazards observed. Bathroom to kitchen clean, med secured. I cooperated fully. Terms: I requested that all follow-up be in writing. Provided email, consented to send pediatrician letter and photolog today. Requested their supervisor's contact for CC. Next, sending. 1. Timeline with exact quotes. 2. Dr. Chen, letter stating medical necessity of supports. 3. School letters, IEP, and typical supports. 4. Photolog, no faces. Request, reply received. Document specific safety concerns in writing. I CC'd myself because 2 a.m. me is a flight risk with memory. Then I pulled the binder from the shelf. Empty tabs labeled timeline, medical, school, photos, releases, and slid the summary behind tab 1. Empty tabs are courage in plastic. The phone lit with family text before I could pour more water into my hands. Heard CPS came. What happened? If you didn't make such a big deal last night, I typed received to no one and to everyone, laid the phone under a towel, my house version of a veil, and wrote a template I could paste for the next 72 hours. Boundary to family. Copy-paste. I didn't discuss our child's health by phone or social. I kept this in writing with the people involved. For logistics only, email purpose, plus 2 noon options. Then I wrote the one sentence that let me stand up. I wouldn't try to win the room. I would feed the system. Systems eat letters, dates, photos. They gag on monologues. If I fed the system might carry us back home. Before I drafted the emails you heard in the next chapter, I walked through my apartment with my camera, not theirs. I photographed the calm corner with the lamp on, the cabinet locks closed, the visual schedule at eye height, the mattress neatly on the floor with the blanket folded like we only ever used it to be kind. I named the photos with dates so a judge who doesn't love me could still know what day it was. Then I sat at the table and did what I do when I think I'm about to drown. Made a list that fits on one page. At the top I wrote, Receipts over Rage. Under it, I numbered 5 lines. 1. Email Dr. Chen. Request letter stating supports are medically necessary. Sign HIPAA release. 2. Email school. Principal plus teacher. Forwardable FYI of typical supports. Request short letter on progress. 3. Neighbor Morgan. 3-line character letter. Routine, safety, regulation. 4. Build photolog. No faces. Captions like museum placards. 5. Send proof packet to CPS. Timeline, letters, photos, request receipt. I added a 6th line in pencil. Breathe 4 in, 6 out. Pencil because I forget. I wish I could tell you I felt brave. I didn't. I felt like a person who had to remember which drawer the printer paper lives in. I pulled it out and printed 2 blank HIPAA releases from Dr. Chen's portal. Because experience has taught me that one signature will smudge. I set them next to the stapler and wrote today's date in the corner as if dates could stop time from making a fool of us. Before I hit send on anything, I did the last small thing a mother can do on a day like this. I set the weighted blanket back on my son's bed and placed his blue octopus on the pillow, like a placeholder for a body that deserved to sleep in its own room tonight. I turned the porch light to dusk because ordinary is not a sin. Then I washed the dish towel I had used on my face and hung it back on the oven handle, straightened like proof that houses can reset. People will tell you to stay calm. Calm is a luxury. Structure is not. I didn't manage calm. I managed structure. Sentences that start in the kitchen and end in a PDF. Windows at noon, quiet hours, on 24. After any hard contact, and a promise to myself that I would not audition for anyone with a clipboard. If I gave them paper, and if I let paper speak louder than my feelings, then my boy might come home faster than my anger would carry him. You already know how I spent the afternoon. Emails, scans, the ring of a little print and ship store where the clerk said, "Good luck," like she meant it. But the hinge of this part wasn't the printer or even the binder. It was the door line, said once. Kitchen voice, then a life carried by documents, not applause. When people ask me later what I wish I had known, it's this. The difference between a door and a stage is a sentence. Through wood, I wasn't a character. I was a mother with a plan, and a clock, and a folder. Rooms listen differently when your verbs are kept. And if you need to hear it the way I needed to hear it at my own sink, your house is not on trial because it contains ramps you can't see. The right rooms will learn to call them support. The wrong rooms will write concerning on a clipboard and leave. Either way, a record will hold longer than a speech. I didn't want to fight. I wanted a record, so I made one. I made coffee I didn't need, set a 20-minute timer, and told my body, we're building paper that carries us back home. I started with the doctor because medicine can say in 1 paragraph what a mother's speech can't in 100. I opened a blank email and typed slow so my tone didn't sprint ahead of my facts. Subject, request, medical necessity letter for home supports, today if possible. Body, copy and paste. Hi, Dr. Chen. CPS visited this morning after a report. They questioned our home supports. Visual schedule, cabinet locks, mattress on floor, weighted blanket. Could you please issue a letter stating these accommodations are medically necessary for child's name, DX autism spectrum disorder, to ensure safety and regulation? I'll sign a release so you can send it directly to CPS. Thank you. My name. Phone. Before I hit send, I attached 2 photos from last week. The picture schedule at eye height and the calm corner lamp on, no faces. Evidence likes boring pictures. While that traveled, I built a timeline the way a clerk would want to read it. Rows, not paragraphs. Verbs, not feelings. 0511 9:47 p.m. Bride on mic. What is he doing here? Back pew, left aisle. 3 phones raised. 0511 10:14 p.m. In car. Child quiet. Mother exited. Aunt. Some people love attention. 0512 10:06 10:41 a.m. CPS home visit. Observed couch covers, cabinet locks, mattress on floor, weighted blanket. Described as concerning. Temporary removal ordered. Mother requested in writing. Offered medical documentation today. I named the file like a stranger who didn't love me should still find it in 30 seconds. 2025-05-12. Timeline rehearsal, CPS, visit V1 PDF. Dr. Chen replied in 8 minutes. On it, please sign this HEPO release so I can send directly to CPS. She attached the form with my son's name already filled. I printed, signed, scanned, and sent it back before the kettle clicked. 2025-05-12, out, HEPA release durch den CPS PDF. Next was school. I didn't send a saga. I sent something the principal could forward without edits. Subject, FYI, accommodation clarification. No action requested. Sharing for your records. Our at-home supports mirror. Child's IEP. Visual schedule. Eye height. Quiet, calm corner. Weighted blanket at rest. Sensory breaks 5-2. If asked, please confirm these are typical supports for him and not indicators of neglect. If you're able, a short note on progress this semester would help. Thank you for keeping this in writing. Then I wrote to the district records office so our binder could carry more than anecdotes. Subject, records, FERPA request, IEP plus progress summaries, expedited. Please provide the current IEP, last 2 progress updates, and any behavior support plans for child. Electronic copies preferred. Thank you. While those cooked, I texted Morgan across the hall. Can I list you as a character reference? If yes, 3 lines. What you see of our routine, safety practices, and how child regulates with supports. She replied, lunch break, pen time. Competent women are a religion. I opened my camera roll and built a photo log. Each image got a caption like a museum placard. Calm corner, lamp, beanbag, weighted blanket folded, rules card posted. Cabinet locks, intact. Cleaning supplies secured, under sink child latch. Mattress on floor for proprioceptive jumps during regulation. Visual schedule, laminated first, then cards at child eye height. At the top I typed, photos depict pediatrician recommended supports consistent with IEP, faces intentionally excluded. File name, boring as virtue. 2025-05-12 Photolog Home. Accommodations PDF. When Dr. Chen's letter landed, the room leveled. To whom it may concern, the following supports are medically necessary for child ASD diagnosis, visual schedule, cabinet locks, weighted blanket, mattress on floor during regulation periods. These supports reduce distress, promote safety, and are standard in my recommendations. Please consider this letter as clinical support for the family's accommodation plan. I forwarded with the signed release and added CPS to the thread. Subject, release attached. Please send directly to CPS. Per attached HIPAA release, please email your letter to Caseworker, iWord Agency. I will also include it in our packet. Thank you. Then I wrote to CPS in a tone I hoped their supervisor could read out loud without flinching. Subject, proof packet, child's name, accommodations, and timeline. Hi, caseworker. Per today's visit, I'm sending documentation in writing. 1. Timeline of events, exact times quotes. 2. Dr. Chen letter, medical necessity of supports. 3. Photo log of home accommodations, no faces. 4. School principal, teacher letters, pending forwarding upon receipt. 5. HEPA release authorizing pediatrician to send directly. Please confirm receipt. By replying received. For any additional info, I'm available by email. My name, phone. I attached files, pressed send, and put my hands flat on the table like I was checking that it could still carry me. The principal wrote at 1:03 p.m. Happy to confirm, these supports are common for child at school and at home. He's making academic and social progress with them. We see a calm, engaged student when routines are followed. The teacher added, reading gains, transitions improved with visual prompts, uses quiet corner appropriately. I merged both into one PDF. 2025-05 12. Letters, School Progress and Supports, PDF. Morgan slid a page under my door at 1:40 p.m. Tidy handwriting that read like a plumb line. I live across the hall. I see consistent safety practices. Cabinet locks, supplies stored, stove off. I see a regulated child using sensory tools, weighted blanket, picture schedule. I see a mother who reads cues and de-escalates. I scanned it and labeled it like it deserved a seat at the table. 2025 and so 5:12. Letter neighbor, observation, safety and regulation PDF. I printed 2 full packets at the print and ship store, one for CPS, one for court if needed. The clerk said, "Good luck," the way people say it when they mean "I see you." $7.62 bought me heavy paper that didn't wilt. Back at the table, I slid pages into a binder with tabs I'd labeled that morning when I still had more adrenaline than sense. Tab 1, Timeline, Visit Summary plus Grid. Tab 2, Medical, Dr. Chen Letter plus HIPAA Release. Tab 3, School, Principal Teacher, Flatsut, IEP once it arrived. Tab 4, Photos, Home Accommodations Log. Tab 5, Releases and Receipts. Behind Tab 1, I tucked the 3-paragraph summary I'd emailed after the visit. I keep those like bread and water. Subject, Proof, 05-12. CPS Visit Summary, 10:06-10:41. Facts, 2 CPS workers, Ms. Hayes, Mr. Lowell, observed plastic couch covers, cabinet locks, weighted blanket, mattress on floor. Described as concerning. Temporary removal ordered. Terms, I requested written communication, provided email, consented to HIPAA release for pediatrician letter, declined phone updates. Next, sending pediatrician letter plus photolog plus timeline by 2 p.m. Forwarding school letters upon receipt. I CC'd myself because 2 a.m. me believes PDFs more than courage. I also wrote 3 scripts on an index card and taped it inside the binder. Scripts rescue you when adrenaline tries to improvise. Doorline, authorities. I was happy to cooperate. Please keep all follow-up in writing. I'll provide documentation today. Family boundary. I didn't discuss our child's health by phone or social. For logistics, email purpose, +2 noon options. School check-in. Thanks for the support. Please confirm this in writing and add to the file. At 2:23 p.m., I sent the packet to CPS, and because the world misplaces things, I sent a receipt request too. Subject, receipt request. Document sent at 2:23 p.m. Please confirm. Hi, caseworker. Following up to confirm you received the timeline, medical letter, photolog, school letters, and HIPAA release. Please reply received. Thank you. The reply came fast. Received. I exhaled like someone had opened a window. Then the FERPA office sent the IEP and the last 2 progress notes. I added them to tab 3 and wrote a 1-line cover note so a tired judge could catch the thread. IEP accommodations mirrored at home. Progress correlates with consistency of schedule and sensory supports. I wasn't done. Rooms don't just eat paper, they eat order. I added a cover sheet to the binder so no one had to guess what lived inside. Packet summary, 1 paragraph. This packet documents that child's home mirrors medically recommended and school-implemented autism supports, that the family uses schedules, logs, and safety equipment, and that the 0512 report followed a 0511 incident where the child and parent were targeted at a public event. We request written communication only and offer full cooperation. File name looked like a ruler. 2025-0512 packet. Child. Supports and timeline. Sent 2:23 p.m. PDF. The family text kept buzzing like flies against a window. Heard CPS came. What did you do? If you hadn't made a scene last night. I pasted my boundary reply exactly once in 3 different threads and put the phone under a towel. My house's quiet hours. Cape. I didn't discuss minors or health by phone or social. I kept this in writing with the people involved and, if needed, the court. For logistics only, email purpose, +2 noon options. I wanted to drive across town and shake sense into adults who used microphones as knives. Instead, I printed 1 more HIPAA release, my insurance against smudges, and filled 2 manila envelopes. 1 addressed to the CPS office, 1 to my attorney's inbox in case today turned into tomorrow. Then I did 3 boring things that felt like prayer. I labeled the USB stick Home Accommodations, Photos, and put it in tab 4. I set the porch light to dusk because ordinary is not illegal. And I washed the mug I'd been reheating all day and put it back on the shelf like a loop closed. Around 3:10 p.m., the principal's letter chimed in. I merged her note with the teacher's into a cleaner PDF, resaved it with the naming rule like I work in records. 2025-05-12, Letters, School Progress and Supports V2, PDF. I forwarded the update to CPS with a line that always makes future me grateful. Subject, Update, School Letters attached. Please add to file. Additional letters attached, no action requested, for your records. Please reply received. Received pinged back. Paper was doing a job my anger could not. If you're listening because you're inside a day like mine, take these 3 copy-paste tools and stick them on your fridge. File naming rule. We to type. Subject V's. Example. 2025 and 05-12 timeline. Rehearsal CPS. Visit. Die V1 PDF. 3-paragraph summary. Facts. Time place quotes. Terms in writing. Windows. Next. What I send, use ask. Email subject lines that don't scare people. FYI. Accommodation clarification. No action requested. Proof 0512. CPS visit summary. 10:06-10:41. Receipt request. Doc sent. Please confirm received. By late afternoon, my binder had weight. I put it by the door, where I keep the stroller pump and the extra umbrella. If the world was going to keep talking in court, I wanted my house to answer in PDF. That night, because stories like to prove you right when you're tired, an unknown number sent a single line. Check your email. The clip arrived 2 minutes later. The rehearsal room, my cousin at 9:47 p.m., whispering, pointing, typing. The CPS call log timestamp would show 9:52 p.m. later. I forwarded it to my attorney with one word. Attached. She replied, Bingo! People say proof is cold. Sometimes it's the warmest thing in the room because it lets you put the speech down and pick your child up. Before I slept, if you can call it that, I added one more note. Proof 0512, 6:41 p.m. Received rehearsal video, 9:47 timestamp. Forwarded to attorney, no posting. Then I slid the SPB card back behind the binder tab, smoothed the dish towel on the oven handle, and sat for 10 minutes with the porch light timed to dusk. Boring on purpose felt like a lullaby. What I felt versus what I filed. That day. Felt, deliver the speech they deserve. Filed, timeline, plus doctor, letter plus school letters, plus photo log, plus receipt request. Felt, tell everyone the whole story. Filed, 3-paragraph summaries. Received, allowed during quiet hours. All else in writing. Felt prove I'm a good mom on social. Filed, no posts. Files name for strangers who don't love me. If the world ever tries to rename your love concerning, hand it a packet it knows how to read. Receipts beat rage. They brought my son home faster than a perfect monologue ever could. Email Janluts 11:18 Sangvoy dong tieo jetrongnu. Bien bao dunglai. Toy gian nuoi day con ko giam sat. Hom nai dvoi zuanzaria tri iri zaria chiu. Noi dung email ko ba quitak juok injam. Kong tau luan ve truong hop. Kong chebai. Tuan theo huang dan kua na han vien. Vamot dong ve kamera chojam bao chet luong. Toy nahin sham sham vao kum tu jam bao chet luong chojen kikat chukai. Kong kon gyong tingan nua. Sao jo toy jat long bantay suong ban va lam jiu. Toy jan tu hua voi bantan silam trong thang nai. Chuan pi mot ke hoach. Shu kong fay mot bay fat biu. Toy jan chuan bi tu itam kam. Numot bo dong kudanchien. Bak tuok san kshong. Tainga shong. Tui jung sot tau va ong hud shong. The parasaurolophus no. Luon. Mot tam lot jui ko trong luong ko. Dulich vi trong luk segupi kangay ka ki fong kong jucho. Hey kan lao. Mot lich trin hangan gon in tren nuato gyay. Ruate. Ane, choy tro choy, jok sak. Toy net lich trin va motam de gichumoi, vao tui truak. Fiutam kam, sao chep dan. Hong noi chuyen rieng. Yung noi trong bep. Moi lan chimot huang. Hitok tiri sheslam plus an long bantay nu fong kwajong. Gilay toy giantrik dan ching sat sao jo. Yukon han vien. Voy long gilay jujo bangvan ban. Lux win eurofank. Toy bo tap tailio. vào tuổi khác, không phải vì tôi du jeans monora, mà vì sức năng tren tay giup tôi jung vung. Lux Unit 27, tôi nahan tin cho Morgan, tôi jang jipo vào, tôi se chiguija nahan cho jen ki het gio yentin. Luke Ion 33, tôi jat jen thoai, oche jo kong lam fien, nguai tru bak si chen va truong hok. Luke 1 quartin ayon, tôi ngoi trong bay, jau se kua. Trung tam thai nguyen gia jin va en himot ongbo. Mak ao so mi kung so be mot kon hu kao kon hoi bon kwa trut numot loi kao nguyen huabin chomot te kioi jang jan gia ban ki ban kon ho. Tien san nong nak mui nuok ruatai va ban quick so antu mai ban hang tu jong. Mot también tren tuong yo kao fu huin jen so moi lam fut van en hang hat no chung toi rang camera luon bat. Mot ngoi punulik suo kwela tan jai mot tam bang ve fia toi. Ki vao jai je chung min ban hiu ro kwijin. Toi jok dong voi su tap trung kao. Jo nu da ban jang dan chomotu ki jo ko da su dong sao ma kong kan fai noira. Von ban jiai. Joy voi bio mau sao chep dan. Toi jong iki. Ban so da gui cho toi mot ban sao kway mel jalutru kong. Ko ai gi jia chi kwa toi ma kong he to dai. That may man chun hung han vien nao hiu rang giai to giu cho fong ok sak se. Ko ai jua cho toi mot tam de kash chi ko chukai jau tien kwa toi vanoi. Fong kwa an labi far. Mot han vien se jua kontrai an vau. Toi hoi liu toi ko da sap sep cho otro ki kontrai toi jin kong. Tat nien roi. Ko ai noi. Vachi tai traik suang han lang. Noi nung kan kwa juot gan chukai trong hun hong tam bien ten lik su. Bi fat mau be. Ban he kai ge. Mot kai ke no jung jo choik sep hin. Mot hop kan giai va mot chiek jen. Jo o gok noi mai kwe huang vau. Toi bai ban theo kash kon toi hiu ve kach kan fong. De joan. Lich trin hio ben trai. Bak tuk va mieng lot jui trenge. Sot tau va ong huto fiak sa noin hong ban tai no kong de voi toi tro kiruate. Tenge gap lain humot lui hua o giwa. Toi luyen tap trong jau hai fut jau tien. Ruate, anhe. Toi nin vao mai kwe va kong noi gi. Jat tai len tim theo kash ba toi tung lam ki ba mo noi rang toi siku shu jung muk va jong toi kong jau heng. Luke, I'm 59. Kwamo. Kontrai toi bok vao kung mot nan vien ma toi kong kwen biet va mot ngoi menoi voi tam long tot nu mot shiek aulen cardigan. Dai la baka, han vien noi. Ba ai mang cho kontrai toi bo jongu mausan yutik je jingu. Toi muon on bo jongu. Toi noi kam on, voi koang kong. Toi noi chao an ban, voi koang kong giwa. Hai chung toi je kon ko de buok, jima kong bi toi niu lai, vin hu kau kua min. Ansh ngok nin toi tu duoi hang mi, ko de an lam jong tats man hong, juat rekwet fong moi thong lam. Toi komen goik suong je ma chung toi ngang hang ma kong yu kau ko de an fai treulen. Rua te, anhe, toi noi, chivon hong bukan. Anhen yeng den goi vao, anhan, roi lai ra, vachung toi jijen bon rua. Ang sua sha fong dion hong vong tronoho. Toi jem giai vi jola kash je ban kong hoang so ke lai. Mot, hai ba, an lau kote. Vone kan ba lan vanin toi nu te bai gio lagini. Toi chivao jo an evaluan ong hut vao tui so tau voi ve mat kiem ton de hian sutan tau. An hap hengum ba toran utian van ho. Chung toi ngoi shuang. Jen jon hap nhai o gok fong. Toi gia vo jo la jentrang tri. Ngai le ma chung toi kwen kat ji. An ko muon mua bach tuoch kong. Toi hoi. An gat jau. Mon jo choi roi vau tai an. Va tai toi jat suang ban. Fang li. Ngut toi tha long mot shoot. Chung toi choi trogep hin. Nenang voi nung tam de kong long. An ha except chung len ban. Roi gep nung hin veno voi nung tam de dat trong tui qua chung toi. An hai hoi. Para saurolofus a? Va toi traloi. Vang, boivi. Vang la tu ten hatbans. Ko de noi voi mo jua treki katek yoi. Jagi email tu choi kangai. An hai dung ngon tai ve hin mau va ka he chung toi ju hit vao bon hoi. Tu ra sao hoi. Chung toi ja tok long. Luke du trin. Mot amdan tu han lang. Tien kim loai va vao gash. Kien vai an giat ne. An jen jo duong husang hon trong giai lat. Ngoin han vien bok ve fia chung toin hu mot fansa. Toi gio mot ngon tai len. Cho toi mot giai. Vatuk hien ke hoach kwa chung toi. Jat chan suang san. Toi noi. Gunevao giayan hai. An I go. Antay toy noi, long bantay ngwalen. An I an hailan. Toy jang thu, va toy lam theo. Jem theo toy noi. Bon vao saura. An I titam hong kon so makong hin vao matoy. Kan fong dan tronen yenting. Theo kach ma joy ki kan fong tronen yenting kiban yen hang yukao. Konahan vien dung lai giwa chung va jung yen taicho. Toy ninko ay va dung gyong noin ha bep kwa min. Foton trong moing goy va gyu jok subintin. Chung toy yon, toy noi. Niu kogi, kan toy jiuchin, shin hoi givao hoso. Koi ay gat jao. Toy kong he chin sua kue. Toy jang sap shep lai kan fong sao cho kon toy jok la chin min. Chung toy jok mot kwonsach, vekshe tai luk dvedvatian. Moi trang mot kau, nigon tai toy jat doi na hung tuma an hai thich go. An ai an mieng lot jui len juin hu, the an hai tun ho trong luk. Kuba trang toy lai liets nin mai kwei. Kong fai je trindian, maja chunkien. Toy mon kan fong, naigi lai kan kwijin trong gyong nu hung tun hon hat. Nham chan juk sep chong len hau mot kach liksu. Rua, nham hap, an jem, juks. Jen dvi tretatiris. An hai hoi, ven ha chua. Toy kong noi doi. Som toy noi. Janglam viek. Kwijin kong juok noi chuyen rieng. Va toy tu anthu. Nong su dat vanam trong su vang lui. Nubang you no tungam tiet mot. An hai gat jau va jatkon para saurolofos nam sapsuang hu mot ngoy banjangu. Lux duis guardanad. Nahan vien kwele voy mot tambang. Kep ho so va gyong noi jok de fain hinhang. Chung ta ko nam put. Ko ay noi. Theo kiu ban bongoy ta chuan bidu. Toy gat jau vardan chung toy jen chojong kwa. Chung toy a sap sep like kat tam thiep. Toy chivaw tolich ko jan daw no jebao hiu chung toy jen huan tan. Va toy jua cho antakon bak tuok jemang theo. Vika de gioi jan lay juroi. Bob hai kai. Toy noi. Chia long bantaira. Anhay Bob hai lan. Toy Bob lay. Jang ko gang. Anhay noi. Em kung vay. Toy noi. Vai toy mon. Noi theon hiu hong hon ka kan fong ko de chua noi. Kan kua mora. Ba siming koi. Nu koi met moi nu de biet gyo jingula mot vujao. Thang betik pa jongu mausan. Ba noi lay. Nu de ba mon toy ko jok shutan jo. Kamon ba jagoi mon sotao. Toy kamon ba bangan matvi kong kon loy nau dienta jok kam gyak nu jang tuon trao. Nan vien noi. Chung toy silian lak jelen lik chulan kam tiep theo. Kau noi ain humot niem hi vong jok tap len cho jengi koi jogi email hen gap. Ki horoiji. Toy ngoi yen ba moi gyai. Taiwan jat tren banje ko de kwen voi viets kong voi va. Saujo. Toy lam hiem vu kwa min. Na tui sak va jijen ban lam viets. Kich ban toat. Sao chip dan. Camon. Vui long gui email. 1. Fiu junkie hom nai. 2. Tom tat boy gap ma banja lu trong ho so. Va. 3. Huang dan yo kau luat su kang kap ban sao ban giam. Nahan vien gat jau va gorn mai. Kosin han jok email vau koingay. Toy hoi ten ko ay va viet vau tam de gichukwa minvi. Kon ngoy lan hong chitiet. Va chitiet se bimat trong hong hetong hong gichip chunglay. Luke 3 dwas. Tren she. Toy jat ungdung hen gio beplo. O mok nam fut va je ko de tudo sang tao. Kino keo bip. Toy mogi chuva viet nat ki badong trong ki kan tuong van. Kon viet van tren ngon tay. Do nam taray ton chiu. Tam kam ko giam sat. Fong bip fat. Kui jincho tre. Tam rua. Anhe. Choi tro choi. Joksach. Sudang 4-6 lanthova and long ban tai mot lan. Tieng on hanlang dos 13. Tuong tak voin han vien. Yuko fan hoi bang van ban. Yuko thoat jebiet tong tinjang hap tom tat giam. Toy lai sheven ha duoi bao troi mau tai chivarot chumin motkok. Nuok trok kimo mai tin sak tay. Sao jo. Toy viet ban tom. Tat ba joan van chotipes teo gyong jiu toy van. Dung cho fong. Nan su van hong kan fong kwen mat ban la mot kon ang goy chojen kikats. Joan van kua benangan gon. Tieo je. Bang chung. 0 finko dwalas. Tom tat boy tam kam. Kogiam sat. Doi ta 3 sirichiu. Fong b4. Sukien. Boy tam kam dian rateo jung lich trin. Kach hua jong. Rua tai. Anhe. Tro choi gep hin. The kung long. Jok sak. Jim lot jui ko trong luong. Ko santainge. Ko mot lang giat min hangan luk 2.3. Tieng on trong han lang. Retro lai bin hatin voi nipto, 4-6 va an long bantay. Hong kwan sa te van jan tuan now. Kats jiu koan. Teo chin sak, chung toi jan kong, tao luan vitrong hop nai. Toi jan yeu kau bat ki fan hoi. Now kuan han vien fai juoch kung kap bang van ban. Kirave, toi jan yeu kau. 1. Fiu jan ki. 2. Tom tat boitam, kam jelu ho sova. 3. Huang dan yu kau giam tong kwa luatsu. Tiep tiu. Vui long dem tom tat nai vau ho so. Vui long gu yemel kats muk tren. Tukwa bak sini kwa venu kau itikan tiet. Tukwa truong, nat kian va mok toi gian ja juak ki vau jaung gai hom nai. Vui long traloi nu jan han juak. Toi jan sao chep choluat suva chochin min. Sao jo, toi ja ten valu lai je tang sa ungoi la ko de lai lai ma kong kan motat kan hungi toi jam viet. 2025 November 12. Note Supervised Visit Summary Room B4 PDF. Toi kung jan lu mukluk kach bai viet hom nai vau. Mukluk mot trang chotab inan kwa bia. Visap siep teo tutula mot kach tute voi bantan. Toi trong tuang lai. Timeline. Rehearsal. CPS Visit V1 PDF. Packet Child. Supports and Timeline. Sent to 23 p.m. PDF. Unit Supervised Visit Summary. Room B4 PDF. Trong tam taenguyen gia jin. Jagui email lutafat 02 chiu. Mot to janki juoch kwet. Mot ki chutam kam gan gon. Chametam gia. Trebintin so kon giat min gan. Va mot kau ve kats ban gi am. Go sancho kats ben tong kwa luatsu tong kwa. Yu kau kam fa. Toi chuyen tip email cho. Marcus voi mot tu magio jantrotan kai. Batai kwa chong toi. Jin kem. An ai traloi. Jan han. Ngay mai noi trin sang. Fien ju tran kan kap. Mang tiu tap tai liu. Toi jung trong bep va je kwang toi gian ai jong lai trong mieng hu mot liu vitamin. Nawa triti sang jong ang hia voi viets toi ko moi hai. Ting ang gujen hats no hitan kin kua. Min ve viets no puk vue. Toi la mot shiets ban sandwich bo jau pong ma toi quinan. Toi bai chik au lenjen ra. Tu kien toi kam dain hu mot chik kep gay mokra tu tayao. Toi jet ban tom ta chuen tam kam fia. Sau tab 1. In email tu giwarra. Va kep no fia sau ban tom tat bang mot chit kep gay mau vang vi mau vang la mau toi dung je chi ju nai jang yup ish. Toi mon goi jen chume va ke chubang ke vetam lot chot. Ve viets an hain ho an hailan. Ve viets an hai hoi ven hachua. Ma kong lam toi jau. Nong toi jang kong lam vei. Gio yen lang. Wes an 20 Jabat jau ngai tu kikan kwa. Jong lai sau lungan ai. Va toi gio yen lang giong nhu kash mot song goi gio ngai sabat. Koi. Luke 6 dwas kio. Batsi. Menoi. Gay mot tin han kwa trong tam. Mot bukan chop bo jon gu mauk san juok gap trenge. Kong ko mat. Bachu. Kon bengu thipji. Toi kamon ba kwa kong tong tin thiu kach duin hat maluat le chofep. Jan han juok. Kamon ba jan cham so kon betoi nei. Roy toi temot dong vaon hat ki jedo gio sang kong de bien long to tan kauchuyen vetoi. Menoi ja guitin han jan gu. Traloi jan han juok. Kamon ba. Truok hijingu. Toi viet temot tam tipnua. Vada no vao ben trong bia fia train SBB. Trikap kichbam fong. Sao cheptan. Gwin han vien kike hoach. Kwa toi jang hiu kwa. Chung toi on. Nukan toi jiuchin. We long give au hoso. Gwi kon toi kikon hin kwan fong. Tamrua. Anhit choi tro choi. Jok sak. Gwi camera. Bang han jong. Kong fai loi noi. Gwi jin ham chan. Jem. And long bantai. Jat chan tren san. Jat mieng lot. Jui len jui. Roi toi ba jen hien. Na sang she jo chang vang du toi kong rangwai. Amap theo gio van lar amap. Neu ban chua bao gion goi duoi jen jova kogang la min hu de kong en hinte ban jang vat long voi tin hiu kwa min. Toi hei vong ban si kong bao gio lam hu vai. Neu ban jan tung. Ban bietrang moi jiu to jip ban ja. Tuk han trong bep kwa min kung ko tak dongo jo. Giong noi nen hang. Tong hong mod. Tin rang ko. La liu thuak. Va tin rang to gye semang theo. Nang gi kam su kwa ban kong de nang jo. Chuyen tam kong swa chua juok tuan jo. No ja la mot jun ho hon. No day cho kan fong biet kui jin trong. Nyo the now joy voi chung ta. Ngay mai. Toi se jet ham fan jok jiu jo tan tung hang. Tung bang chung va tung tab. Toi ne. Toi je min tin rang mot kao be engu kwen trong bo jo engu mau san la mot lo ai fan kwet. Toi ti tam hai kai pop vào khoang kong va dung ngon tai. An vào long ban tai min. Toi jankogang vatutra loy, toi kungvei. Roy toi jat taptai liu kan kua, vajat bao tukluk sexten, sangje fataphe. Maskarava jokmot loy kaunguen theodang dan satkiem tra. The courthouse smelled like wood polish and coffee that had met too much air. 9:30 a.m. sat on the wall clock like a dare. I wore the black sweater that makes me feel like a clipboard grew sleeves, and I carried the binder the way you carry an infant car seat. Awkward, careful, necessary. Marcus, my attorney, met me by the elevators with a nod that said, "Bring the paper, leave the speech." Juvenile courtrooms are small on purpose. The cast is practical, a judge who prefers dates to feelings, counsel for the agency, the caseworker, Ms. Hayes, a county attorney, sometimes a guardian ad litem who represents the child, and your lawyer, who, if you're lucky, likes tabs. No brides, no microphones, no aunts whose stage whispers tell on them. Just conduct in a room that eats exhibits for breakfast. Marcus touched the spine of my binder, like a coach tapping a helmet. "We're going to talk like clerks, not like cousins," he said. 3 lanes, timeline, medical, school. The rest is garnish. I nodded. He slid a yellow sticky inside my palm with 4 words on it. Yes, no, plus 1 sentence. That was my role. Brave isn't loud. Brave is brief. We sat. The judge adjusted his glasses and called our case number. He read into the record that an emergency removal had been ordered yesterday pending assessment, that a supervised visit occurred, and that we were here to decide whether the child stayed out of his home, went to a relative, or returned with conditions. He looked down at the file, then up at us. "Make your record," he said to the county attorney. The county's opening was an outline written in pencil. Report of unsafe conditions. Observations of plastic couch covers, cabinet locks, mattress on floor, and a weighted blanket. The word concerning made its second appearance in 2 days. There was mention of my defensiveness at the door, which Marcus would later translate to asked for writing. They said, "We're not making accusations about neglect, Your Honor. We're asking for time." Time, in these rooms, often means overnights you don't get back. "Counsel for the mother?" the judge said, pen hovering. Marcus stood like a person who likes rows. "Your Honor, we'll proceed in 3 exhibits," he said. Exhibit A, timeline with exact times and quotes from the public incident the night before and the CPS visit the next morning. Exhibit B, medical letter from the child's pediatrician stating the medical necessity of each item labeled concerning. Exhibit C, school letters, and IEP excerpts confirming these are typical supports for this child and correlate with regulation and progress. We'll also proffer a photo log of the home accommodations and the supervised visit summary documenting regulation with routine. He handed the clerk neat packets with sticky flags like tiny traffic lights. My name looked smaller on paper than it feels in your throat. Exhibit A, timeline. The judge read lines the way you read a recipe card. Measurements first. 05:11, 9:47 p.m. What is he doing here? Bride on microphone. Back pew. 3 phones raised. 05:12, 10:06, 41 a.m. CPS visit. Concerning couch covers, cabinet locks, mattress, weighted blanket. Mother requested in writing. Temporary removal issued. 05:12-2, Cyber 3 hours p.m. Supervised visit. Child regulated with routine. Brief startle at 2:13 resolved with 4-6 breathing and palm press. He didn't look at me. He looked at the verbs. I love judges who love verbs. Exhibit B, medical. Dr. Chen's letter took the word concerning out back and rehung it as clinically indicated. The judge read, visual schedule, cabinet locks, weighted blanket, mattress on floor during regulation periods. Medically necessary supports for ASD to ensure safety and regulation. Standard in my recommendations. He underlined medically necessary with his voice. Exhibit C, school. The principal's letter said the supports mirrored school. The teacher's note said transitions improved when the visual schedule and sensory breaks were honored. Marcus added without embroidery, we've also submitted the IEP excerpts highlighting these supports. The judge nodded as if someone had put the last missing puzzle piece in the right spot. Marcus slid the photo log forward. No faces. And the supervised visit summary I'd sent at 3:24 p.m. yesterday. Note at 2:13, he said. Startle, then regulation, with breathing and palm press. Weighted lap pad used. No safety issues. He didn't make it sound heroic. He made it sound repeatable. Then he did the thing good attorneys do. He asked for a ruling that sounded like a recipe. We asked that the emergency removal be vacated, that the child be placed with maternal grandmother as an immediate step if the court prefers a transitional placement pending a specialist home visit within 48 hours, and that all communication occur in writing. We also request that any future allegations be routed through counsel, and that the agency note these supports as accommodations, not hazards, in the file. The county attorney stood to object to the speed. "We have not verified any of this," she said, gesturing at our binder as if paper could be contagious. "We simply ask for time to—" The judge lifted a hand and spoke without heat. "You had time yesterday to remove a child from his home based on a word that evaporates when placed next to a pediatrician's letter and an IEP. I would like conduct in the record, not memoir from anyone's relatives." He turned to me. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you a few yes-no questions," he said. "Your lawyer may follow." The sticky in my palm warmed. "Are those items, the couch covers, the locks, the weighted blanket, the mattress, there for the child's regulation and safety?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Have you been offering full cooperation in writing?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Did you post any details about this child's situation publicly?" "No, Your Honor." "Can you follow a specialist's guidance if one is ordered?" "Yes." Marcus added one sentence, earned by exhibits. "And the supervised visit reflected regulation with routine," he said, as in the summary at tab 1. The judge nodded. He liked tabs. "If you're waiting for a gavel bang, I'm sorry to disappoint you." Good rulings land like instructions, not like television. "Emergency removal is vacated," he said. "The child is to be placed with maternal grandmother today. A specialist, Dr. Ramirez, if available, is to conduct a home visit within 48 hours and file a report. Supports listed in Exhibit B shall be considered accommodations, not hazards. Communication between the parties will be in writing. Next hearing set in 2 weeks to review the specialist's report and consider return to mother. Counsel for the agency will circulate a written order by end of day. Any future allegations should be routed through counsel and accompanied by documents, not adjectives." He looked at the county attorney. "Anything further?" She adjusted a stack of nothing and said, "No, Your Honor." He looked at Marcus. Marcus said, "Thank you." The hearing took 11 minutes that felt like a week, shaved into an arrow. I wanted to sob and clap and send a group text that said, "See?" Instead, I wrote the 3 lines I always write before my nervous system can embroider. Proof, 05-13-9-41 a.m. Order, emergency removal vacated. Placement with maternal grandmother today. Specialist home visit within 48H. Supports deemed accommodations. All communication in writing. Review in 2 weeks. In the hallway, Ms. Hayes avoided my eyes and asked Marcus to confirm my mother's address. Marcus responded like a memo. "Please email the placement directive and the time of transfer," he said. "Will reply received." He caught my shoulder for a second, just enough to ground a person who had been floating for 24 hours. "Go breathe," he said. "Then go pick up your child at Grandma's." I found a bench by the vending machines and called my mother. "Can you be home by noon?" I asked. "The order says Mikey is coming to you today." She inhaled like a balloon, deciding not to pop. "I'll be there," she said. We did not talk about the wedding. We talked about where the blue octopus would sleep. Marcus came back with copies for my binder, a stamped minute order, a printout of the next hearing's date, and the county's business card with an email address underlined 3 times. "Think like a clerk," he reminded me. "Facts, terms, next." He was teaching me to speak court, even when the room is my kitchen. I walked out in delight that didn't seem to match my insides and sat in my car with the binder open on my lap. I slid the order behind tab 1, Timeline and Orders. I wrote a 3-paragraph summary to everyone who needed to keep pace with our story. CPS, Marcus, Dr. Chen, school. Tone neutral enough to read out loud. Subject, proof, 05-13. Emergency hearing order, summary. Facts, court vacated emergency removal. Ordered placement with maternal grandmother today. Specialist home visit, Dr. Ramirez if available, within 48 hours. supports, visual schedule, cabinet locks, weighted blanket, mattress on floor during regulation, deemed accommodations, not hazards, review hearing set, 2 weeks. Terms, all communication to be in writing, agency to circulate written order by EOD, mother to keep logs. No public posts regards child or proceedings. Next, confirm transfer time, watches, location by email, coordinate with Dr. Ramirez, provide school with order, FYI no action requested. Maintain quiet hours, 24, except for logistics. I CC'd myself because 2 a.m. respect sent more than said. Then I drove to my mother's house, rehearsing the sentence I would say at the door if anyone tried to turn this into a scene. We're so happy to celebrate. We'll step outside so the focus stays on the child. Have a peaceful day. It's amazing how many rooms retreat when you decline to audition. At 11:57, my mother opened her front door with a face I recognized from childhood. The one that means I have feelings and I will not waste your time. We made a landing strip in the living room, picture schedule on the coffee table, weighted blanket folded on the sofa, lap pad in a basket, applesauce in the fridge. She labeled a drawer Mikey with masking tape and a Sharpie because sometimes love is an office supply. The agency car pulled up at 12:22. Mrs. C stepped out with the blue pajamas folded in a bag and a smile that had slept. Ms. Hayes held the paper. We kept it logistics. Marcus had asked for email, but paper also counts when it touches hands. We signed the transfer sheet. I knelt to my son's level, palms open, and said our plan. Hug, wash, snack. He squeezed twice. I squeezed back. The house remembered how to be a house. After handoff, Ms. Hayes said the only sentence of the day I wanted to keep. We'll await Dr. Ramirez's report, she said. Translated, we will let paper talk. I can live with that. Back at the table, I wrote what I felt versus what I filed because it keeps me honest. Felt. Deliver the monologue I wrote in my head at 2 a.m. Filed exhibits AC, yes, no, +1 sentence. Order, behind tab 1. Felt, tell everyone, see, so they clap for me. Filed, 3-paragraph summary, quiet hours, received aloud, no posts. Felt, trust that the worst is over. Filed, next steps. Grid, specialist visit, school FYI, review hearing, keep logs. I sent the school a short FYI with a subject line that doesn't scare teachers. Subject, FYI court order, no action requested. Attaching order vacating removal. Child with grandmother pending specialist home visit. Supports deemed accommodations. No action requested, for your records. Thanks for keeping this in writing. I forwarded Dr. Chen the order too, with a thank you that felt too small for what her paragraph had done. Then I texted Morgan a single word. Home-ish. She replied with a heart and soup. I wrote received and put a clean jar by the sink because loops closed are how I stay human. That afternoon, I sat on my mother's porch while my son napped on the couch under the weighted blanket the state had learned not to fear. I set the porch light to dusk, habit, and opened my binder to tab 1. I tucked a small sticky where my eyes always land and wrote the sentence I would need again. Court prefers boring. Be boring. We still had the video with the 9:47 timestamp sleeping in Marcus's inbox, and we'd use it when it served the record, not my rage. We still had a specialist coming to sit on my floor and name our support. We still had 2 weeks until review, but the house had a child in it tonight, and a blue octopus on a pillow, and a mother who had learned that, in the rooms that matter, paper beats performance every time. The text came at 6:41 p.m., like a pebble in a still bowl. Check your email. Unknown number, no greeting, no emojis. I didn't answer. Quiet hours, 24 had started the minute the caseworker left with my son, and quiet hours are the only reason I've ever kept my center of gravity. I opened my laptop, and there it was, an email with a single link and a subject line that did not try to sell me anything. Rehearsal clip. I hovered over the preview and let my breath be the metronome. Don't post, don't forward yet, don't rename. Then I did the first keepable thing. I saved the original to a clean folder on my desktop without opening it. I wrote a 3-line log before I clicked play because feelings aren't terrible court reporters. 6:41 p.m. Received link, rehearsal clip. Unknown thusser email. No reply, quiet hours. Action planned. Save original. View copy. Forward to council only. Then I made a read-only copy. One to view, one to preserve, and clicked the copy open. The church filled my screen. Gold, light, silk rustle, people making small talk with big smiles. The camera panned past flowers, a cousin's shoulder, the aisle. And then my cousin entered the frame with a microphone and a face that knew how to play a room. She leaned toward a bridesmaid, whispered, pointed, typed. A laugh went up, the kind that arrives coated in sugar, so you'll swallow it without noticing the vinegar. Up in the corner, the recording timestamp blinked. 9:47:12 p.m. I closed the window. I didn't rewind. I didn't zoom. I didn't let my brain edit the clip into a movie where I deliver the perfect speech and the crowd becomes a choir. I reopened the original file's info panel and wrote down what a clerk would want later. File name as received, created, modified times, any visible metadata, and the source, link versus attachment. I snapped a screenshot of the timestamp on the video without cropping, dragged it into a blank document, and typed a caption under it, like a museum placard. Frame capture showing 9:47:12 p.m. During rehearsal. Bride whispering, pointing, typing. Then I labeled the document the way I wish everyone labeled everything. 2005-05-11 video rehearsal clip. Frame capture, Diadoniwan 47:12 PDF. I forwarded the original clip to Marcus with a subject line that didn't try to persuade, just a file. Subject, proof rehearsal clip. 9:47 p.m. timestamp. Forwarding original. Body, received via email at 6:41 p.m. from unknown sender. Number texted, check your email. Saving original, viewing copy only. Attached, original file plus frame capture with timestamp. Please advise on chain of custody and any steps to request hotline call log for 9:45 10 p.m. window. I will not respond to sender unless you instruct me to give your contact. My name. He replied, received. 2 minutes later. Do not post or share. Keep original unedited. I'll request call log and authenticate clip via custodian. If the sender contacts you again, reply, please communicate through counsel with my email and no other content. I added that sentence to my scripts card because stress erases obvious things. Unknown sender script. Copy paste. Please communicate through counsel. Attorney email. I still hadn't cried. I didn't like what that said about the week. I put my palms flat on the table, set a 5-minute timer, and let the quiet be loud around me. When it beeped, I built Exhibit D. Exhibit D. What to do when digital proof lands in your lap. My 7 steps. 1. Save the original without renaming. Don't open in an editor. Don't trim. Don't crop. 2. Make a viewing copy. Watch that one. Preserve the original. 3. Log receipt. Time, date, source, exact subject, any notes. 4. Grab a frame capture showing the visible timestamp. Paste into a PDF with a plain caption. 5. Write a neutral cover note and forward only to counsel. 6. Start a transcript with time codes for any words that matter. 7. Request corroboration, e.g. call logs, through counsel, not DMs. I wrote those steps on an index card and taped them behind tab 1 of my binder, timeline and orders. Then I opened a blank doc and started a transcript like a radio producer on a deadline. 2025-11 video rehearsal clip. Transcript V1, PDF. 9:47:12. Bride whispers to bridesmaid, inaudible, points toward back pew. 9:47:19. Bride typing on phone. 9:47:26. Laughter, bride, plus 2 nearby voices. Words not captured. 9:47:41. Bride glances left, continues typing. 9:47:58. Camera pans away. No adjectives, just the movie of the audio. I left blank lines where sound was muddy and marked inaudible. Later, if Marcus needed, a professional could enhance. My job was structure. The part of me that used to live on the internet wanted to upload the clip with a manifesto. The part of me that wanted my child back kept me on the rails. I added one more document to Exhibit D. 2025-05-12. Note: video chain of custody, V1, PDF. Received 6:41 p.m. Email, rehearsal clip. Link, unknown number texted. Prior, check your email. Saved original 6:44 p.m. No rename. Created copy for viewing, 6:46 p.m. Frame capture, 6:51 p.m. Labeled and saved as PDF. Forwarded to counsel, 6:54 p.m. Subject and body noted above. No contact with sender, quiet hours, pending counsel instruction. Then I did the quietest, brave thing I do on weeks like this. I stopped. I closed the laptop, put the binder by the door, and laid the weighted blanket across my legs like a contract with my nervous system. For 10 minutes, I let the dishwasher hum. Remind me that ordinary isn't illegal. At 7:22 p.m., Marcus called. He always texts first. I always approve the call. 2 things, he said. 1. We'll move to authenticate the clip by obtaining the original from the device owner. 2. I'm sending a records request for the hotline call log between 9:45 and 10 p.m. so we can align timestamps. You did perfect with preservation. What about the sender? I asked. If they contact you again, he said, send the one line with my email, then mute. Do not engage. If we need a custodian declaration, I'll handle it. At 7:40, the unknown number texted again. Use it. She's out of control. I typed the script exactly as written, sent it, and muted the thread. Then I logged the time and the words without trying to decide what the text meant about his marriage, his spine, or his timing. Proof 7:40 p.m. Unknown, circa text. Use it. She's out of control. Replied once. Please communicate through counsel. Attorney email. Muted thread. I did not decide who the sender was that night. My brain wanted it to be Thomas, the groom. My folder didn't need a guess. It needed process. Process would tell me soon enough. It did. Header info plus. The lawyer handshake no one sees confirmed it a week later. It was Thomas. After I ate a sandwich that tasted like cardboard and mercy, I opened my calendar and drew a thin line from 9:47 to 9:52. The way you draw a bowstring you plan to let a judge pull. I didn't yet have the 9:52. Marcus would ask for it in the call log. But the clip had handed me the 9:47, and now the week had something sharper than indignation. A timeline. I wrote a 3-paragraph summary, the kind you can read out loud in a hallway without your throat breaking, and sent it to CPS for the file. CCing Marcus. Tone, HR, not heroin. Subject, proof, 0511. Rehearsal clip, for file. Fax. A video clip from the rehearsal, 9:47 p.m. timestamp, was received via email. It shows the bride whispering, pointing, typing immediately before our exit. I am preserving the original and have forwarded it to counsel. Terms, I will not post or discuss publicly. Please direct any questions in writing through counsel. Next, counsel will request any relevant hotline call logs for 9:45 10 p.m. Window and handle authentication with the original device holder. I didn't expect a reply. I sent it because files are how you teach systems to remember the right parts of a story. Then I made a 1-page handout to slide behind tab 1, my future self's lifeline, when court sped faster than my feelings. Exhibit D, video and call log, map. Clip, 2025-0511, video rehearsal. Clip.move, original preserved. Frame capture 21:47:12.pdf. Transcript v1.pdf. Chain of custody. Note, video chain of custody v1.pdf. Requested, hotline call log 9:45 10 p.m. Counsel. Purpose, a line 9:47 clip with call time to show sequence. I didn't sleep much. When I did, my brain kept replaying the laugh in the clip, the way sugar makes vinegar go down without rage catching it. I woke at 5:11 a.m. and made coffee I didn't want. Then I did one more small powerful thing. I named our choices on an index card. What I felt. Post the clip with a caption that burns. What I filed. Frame capture, chain of custody, transcript, counsel only. What I felt. Reply to the sender with a paragraph of gratitude or fury. What I filed. Please communicate through counsel. Email. What I felt. Tell a dozen people it was her. What I filed. Unknown sender, until authenticated by counsel. I taped that card above the sink because some mornings, ethics need a taller chair than adrenaline. At 9:10 a.m. the next day, Marcus emailed. Hotline confirms call received 9:52 p.m. Requesting the audio will move to admit clip plus call log as a single chronology if needed. He also attached an email from the sender, now identified through counsel, with a one-line custodian statement that the clip was recorded on his phone at the rehearsal and forwarded to me. It wasn't a confession. It didn't need to be. It was a ladder between 9:47 and 9:52. I printed both emails on heavy paper and slid them behind Exhibit D with a yellow paperclip. Yellow is the color I use for this helped. I wrote one sentence on a sticky and lined it up with the rest. Time has teeth. If you're watching at 2 a.m. because someone turned your life into content, here's your copy, jerkeyes, paste. Digital proof mini checklist. Pin this. Save original. No edits, no filters, no rename. Make a viewing copy. Log how, when, from whom. Frame capture with timestamp. PDF. Neutral cover note. Counsel only. Transcript with time codes, even if sparse. Ask for corroboration. Call logs. Device custodian. Through counsel. Do not post. None of this is legal advice. It's Tuesday advice. The kind that lets you be steady in a room that feeds on drama. That afternoon, I took my binder to my mother's house and slid Exhibit D behind tab 1. She made tea the color of old wood and said, "It shouldn't take this." "It does," I said, "and we can." We sat in the ordinary together. Porch light already set to dusk, blue octopus drying on the radiator, and let the week be a thing we could carry one paper at a time. The clip didn't heal anything. It aligned things. It lined up 9:47 with 9:52, whisper with hotline, microphone with knock. It gave the next professional, Dr. Ramirez, the specialist scheduled to sit on my floor and touch every support with words that don't accuse, something to stand on that wasn't my rage. It handed us sequence, and sequence is how systems decide what happened. The morning of Dr. Ramirez's visit, I put the Parasaurolophus back in the sensory bag and the index cards back behind tab 1. Then I wrote one line for the fridge that I would need again. Be gentle in tone and firm in terms. Let time tell it. And then I opened the door to a woman with a clipboard who came to watch us live our normal. The room, for once, was ready to be told the truth in rows. Dr. Ramirez was scheduled for 11:30 a.m. She was the specialist the court ordered within 48 hours. The person who would sit on my floor and tell the file what my house already knew, that our strange little inventions were supports, not hazards. I woke early, not to scrub for judgment, but to set the rhythm my son recognizes. Calm corner lamp on, picture schedule at eye height, weighted blanket folded, not for sleep, lap pad on the chair. The dishwasher hummed, my favorite sound of ordinary. I taped a fresh index card inside the binder's front pocket. Specialist visit, keepable prompts, copy-paste. I'm happy to demonstrate how we use each support. Please list any recommendations in writing as bullet points. If you have safety edits, I'll implement today and send a photo. May I have a copy of your report by portal or email? At 11:18, I texted my mother. Arrive 12:05 with Mikey. We'll do 20-minute observation if Dr. R requests. The plan was clean. First, a walkthrough of my home. Then, if appropriate, a short parent-child observation. I set my phone to do not disturb, with exceptions for Mom and Marcus. Quiet hours didn't end until evening, but logistics are allowed to knock. 11:29. A gentle knock, the kind that sounds like a question. Dr. Ramirez wore flat shoes and a navy cardigan. She slipped off her shoes at the door without being told, which made my nervous system sit down. I'll take notes, she said, patting a small tablet. If I pause, it's to type exact words. I prefer behavior and supports to adjectives. I loved her in that moment. We started in the kitchen. She touched the cabinet locks with 2 fingers. Tested, not skeptical. Cleaning agents here? I opened the undersink. Latch engaged. Bottles labeled. Stove? She checked knob covers, then pointed at the timer on the oven. You use this? I smiled. Religiously. She nodded like she was checking boxes the judge would understand. In the bathroom, she glanced at the bath mat, looked for mildew like she knew courtrooms love mold as a plot twist, and said, Towel hooks at child height are a self-advocacy support. I wrote that language down in my head so I could feed it back to systems that need vocabulary to be kind. In the living room, her eyes landed where I wanted them to. Visual schedule, calm corner, mattress stored against the wall like folded thunder, weighted blanket folded where a hug should live. "Show me your first then," she said. I walked her through a school morning. First bathroom, then breakfast, first shoes, then backpack. I didn't monologue. I demonstrated. She asked, "When do you use the mattress?" I answered in verbs. When his body asks to jump, we pull it down for proprioception, set a 2-minute timer, then transition to a seated task with the weighted lap pad. She sat on the floor without being asked. "That's where I prefer to live during these," she said, crossing her legs like a camp counselor. "You mind if we do the observation here?" "Please," I said, and texted Mom, "Come up." 12:07. My mother and my son stepped in with a bag that already smelled like his shampoo. He scanned the room the way new rooms train him to do. Dr. Ramirez introduced herself to him at his eye level, first name only, slow cadence. "Would you like to show me your schedule?" She didn't tell. She invited. He nodded, the small kind. We did our plan: hug, hands wash, snack, game, read. I used one direction at a time and my kitchen voice. He pressed my palm twice. I'm trying, and I matched him. At 12:13, the upstairs hallway let out a clatter of a vacuum, and his body barked a startle. I tapped his shoes, feet on floor, and offered my hand. He pressed twice, then we counted 4 in, 6 out. The room obeyed our breath. Dr. Ramirez watched the way a science teacher watches a successful experiment, interested, not hungry. "That's co-regulation," she said to her tablet, typing words I wanted on paper. "Parent provides scaffold. Child returns to baseline in under 30 seconds. No safety issues observed." She looked up. "Can you show me a transition?" I pointed to read on the schedule and said, 3 pages. He tapped each page as I read, truck, bridge, light, and then put the book away without the scrape that sometimes tells me we've gone too long. 3 was the correct number, Dr. Ramirez said, like we had just solved an equation. "You know that about him." She asked for small things courtrooms like to see. "Where do you keep medications?" "We don't have any scheduled meds," I said. 2 vitamins live here. I pointed to the high cabinet with a child-proof latch and handed her the empty meds bin. She asked if the weighted blanket is used during sleep. "No," I said. "We never leave a weighted blanket on him asleep." She nodded and typed, "Weighted items used for waking regulation only." My son asked, "Home," with a tilt that made my throat tight. "Soon," I said. "Working on it." The rules said no case talk with him, but truth can be gentle inside rules if you feed it 1 syllable at a time. He slid the Parasaurolophus card into his pocket like certainty and sat beside me. Dr. Ramirez closed her tablet. "I'll file my report by 5 p.m., she said. "Do you want the punchlines now?" I felt my shoulders lower. "Please." She ticked them off like math facts. Environment is supportive. Accommodations are consistent with best practice for ASD. No safety deficits observed. Parenting responses are attuned. Regulation achieved quickly with non-coercive strategies. Recommend case be closed, absent new documented concerns. If allegations continue, consider noting pattern of unfounded reports. "Will you include those phrases?" I asked, half joking, half starving. "Verbatim," she said, and smiled. "I also make recommendations even when things are solid. Would you be open to 2 small edits?" I nodded before she named them. "Add furniture anchors for the bookcase and move the first aid kit to a higher shelf." Easy. I wrote today on my palm so it wouldn't become tomorrow. She stood, shook my hand, and then, without theater, told my son, "You're good at breathing." He looked at her like she had handed him a new dinosaur card. I walked her to the door and asked my last scripted question. "Would you please email me a copy of your report or provide portal access?" I'll reply, "Received," and file it. "Of course," she said. "The agency and council get it too." We said goodbye with shoes slipped on and the smell of ordinary in the hall. When the door closed, I set a 5-minute timer and let my body tremble like a deer that made it out of the lane. Then I wrote the 3-line log while my feelings were still in the waiting room. 11:30, 12:35. Specialist home visit, Dr. Ramirez. Findings: verbal, supportive environment, best practice, no safety deficits. Rapid co-regulation. Recommend close absent new documented concerns. Note possible pattern. Edits. Anchor bookcase. Move first aid kit higher. Implement today. I emailed my 3-paragraph summary to the same circle. CPS, Marcus, Dr. Chen, school, FYI. Neutral enough to read out loud. Subject, proof, 05 to 14. Specialist home visit, summary. Facts, Dr. Ramirez observed supports in place. Visual schedule, calm corner. Mattress for proprioception during waking regulation. Weighted blanket for waking use only. Cabinet locks, door alarm. Parent-child observation included transitions and regulation. Brief startle at 12:13, return to baseline 30 sec with 4 to 6 breathing and palm press. Terms, no case discussion with child. I requested the report in writing. Dr. R will file by 5 us p.m. and send via portal email to agency and council. Next, implementing 2 safety edits today. Bookcase anchors, first aid kit placement. We'll send photo proof. Awaiting report. Will reply received and add to file. I CC'd myself because 2 a.m. is a different species. Then I did the edits. I walked to the hardware store with my son's stroller like it was a pack mule and bought 2 L brackets, wall anchors, and a roll of museum putty for the vase that thinks it's a gymnast. Back home, I secured the bookcase, moved the first aid kit, snapped photos, and sent a 1-line follow-up. Subject, update, safety edits implemented. Photos attached. Per Dr. R's recommendations, bookcase anchored, first aid kit moved. Photos attached for file. No action requested. Please reply received. Received came back from the case email in 2 minutes. The ping felt like a small choir. At 4:11 p.m., because stories like mine always audition new chaos, Marcus forwarded a note. Anonymous report received today, over-medicating. Agency declined to pursue based on Dr. R's observation and medical file. Logged. I added it to my own log. Proof 4:11 p.m. Unfounded allegation. Over-medicating. Logged. Agency declined after specialist visit plus medical file. Noted as pattern. I didn't react. Patterns teach systems. I fed the pattern paper. 4:58 p.m. 2 minutes before she promised. Dr. Ramirez's report arrived. I opened it standing up, like a person reading a telegram. It was 4 pages, short paragraphs, no purple. The phrases she'd promised appeared like handholds, supportive environment, best practice, no safety deficits, rapid co-regulation, recommend case closure, absent new, documented concerns. She ended with the sentence I needed on a line by itself. The home environment observed is appropriate and safe for this child. I replied, received, and slid the report into tab 2, medical specialist. I printed 1 copy on heavy paper and clipped it with a yellow paper clip. My color for this helped. Then I added a new mini card behind the tab. After professional visit mini checklist. Pin this. Send 3-paragraph summary. Facts, terms, next. Implement edits same day. Send photo proof. File report. Reply received. Log any new allegations as pattern data. Update school, FYI, only if it affects routines typed safety. I sent the school a gentle FYI. Subject, FYI, specialist visit. No action requested. A specialist observed our home today. Report says supports are appropriate and safe. If you need any updated accommodation language for the classroom, I'm happy to provide. Thanks for keeping this in writing. They replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a sentence about Mikey reading a full page on trucks during circle time. I filed the emoji like it mattered, because on weeks like this, it does. Dinner at Grandma's that night tasted like soup and relief. My son flapped his hands by the lamp, and my mother asked, "Is that his happy?" "Yeah," I said. He pressed my palm twice under the table, the kind of secret handshake that says we're still us. We were. Before bed, I wrote 1 last card and stuck it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a pear. Copy-paste. When a specialist comes, I'm happy to demonstrate. Please provide recommendations in writing. I'll implement today and send photos. May I receive your report by portal email? Thank you for using behavior and supports, not adjectives. Then I turned the porch light to dusk for no one but me and set the stove timer to 10 to sit in a chair and do nothing heroic. I thought about how many rooms I'd performed in this month, how many I'd refused to audition for, and how good it felt to watch a professional describe us in rows instead of rumors. Tomorrow, I would start the quiet work of community, the rooms we choose when family forgets their job. But tonight, I let 4 pages carry my house like a beam. After the specialist left, and my son fell asleep under a blanket the state had learned not to fear, the house was quiet enough to hear what came next. We needed rooms, not just legal rooms with benches and clocks, but human rooms that know our names and hold our ordinary. I had a mother and a neighbor. I needed a few more chairs at the table that were reliable, not dramatic. I started with the library because librarians are the first responders of Gentle. Tuesday, 10:30 a.m., storytime, ages, wiggly welcome. I emailed the children's desk with my favorite subject line, FYI. No action requested, and wrote 3 lines. Hi, my son's autistic. He does best with a visual mini schedule. If we sit near the door and step out once, we'll return quietly. Thank you for keeping this in writing. They replied with a heart made of punctuation and a line I printed for my fridge. We'll save a spot near the aisle. Waves, welcome. The first morning, the room held like a hammock. I set our mini schedule on the floor. Hello song, 1 book, stretch, bubbles. And when the bubbles part hit, I saw 3 parents glance at us the way hikers glance at the person who brought a map. After, a mom with a tote bag full of snacks said, Your schedule, do you have a picture of that? I sent her a PDF on the spot and added a line to my log. Shared mini schedule. Library mom, 10:30. On Thursdays, we joined the little park loop behind the community center. 2 other moms lapped with strollers like prayer beads. Tasha had twins and a spreadsheet brain. Anna knew every bus that connected to everywhere. The first week, I made the mistake I always make when I want to belong. I reached for big offers. Need childcare? I could. Tasha cut me off with kindness. Give me something I can keep, she said, like a coach who loves you. 20 minutes? Not a hero arc. So I built myself a menu that wouldn't overdraft my life. Room. I can meet you noon 12:20 at the cafe to plan the week. Shift. I can cover 1 hour so you can call insurance. Soup. 1 jar today. Swap the empty back same day. Study. 2 10-question sprints tonight. Timer screenshot. I'll grade at 8:10 and 9:10. Paper. I can read a form in public and type a 3-paragraph summary. I wrote the menu on an index card, taped it behind the SPB card in my binder, and took it with me like a debit card. The first time Anna needed help, bus routes for a therapy intake, we used room. We sat noon to 12:20, found the 14, then the D line, and wrote a 1-sentence plan she could hand her nervous system. She hugged me like I'd paid a bill. I hadn't. I'd kept a minute. Community arrived like this. Copyable things we could repeat. When the community center notary was free but copies were 10C, I brought $2 in quarters and a stack of paper. We stamped forms, wrote names right, and called it good. I put $10 in a jar each week and labeled it micro. That jar didn't buy redemption. It bought bus fare, 2 copies, and 1 USB for a mom who needed to carry an IEP like a passport. I learned that small plus on time beats big plus never every day of the week. I also learned to price my yes in languages community understands, minutes, templates, errands. If a request didn't fit those currencies, I didn't say I couldn't help. I said, decline plus, redirect, copy paste. I can't do that, and here's the small thing I can do. Room, shift, soup, study, paper, thoo, 12, a 12, 20. You wouldn't believe how often people sighed with relief. Turns out, rescuers are loud. Reliable is quiet. At home, Morgan, across the hall, and I traded like a tiny union. She had keys to the laundry room wisdom. Which machines steal quarters? Which ones misprint 10 minutes and mean 6? I had labels and a file naming rule that keeps adults honest. Teach me the naming thing, she asked one Sunday while we folded. I pulled out a Sharpie and wrote it on a Post-it. Humidity type subject VB. Example. 2025-06-02. Letter. Principal Summer. Plan V1. PDF. She stuck it on her fridge and texted 2 days later. I found the exact email I needed in 20 seconds. That text did something to my lungs I wish there were a word for. Community also looked like Nora, the retired school secretary 1 floor down. She still carried a stamp in her purse, the old kind with the date, and a tin of cards. Write 3, she told me the week after the hearing, so your hand remembers you're a person and not only a PDF machine. I wrote thank you cards to Dr. Chen, Dr. Ramirez, and Mrs. C, the foster mom who folded the blue pajamas. I didn't mail the 3rd one for a week because gratitude is heavier than people think. When I did, she answered through the portal. Received. He loved the octopus. I filed it behind tab 1. This helped, with a yellow paperclip. I built a group text for our little ring of parents, but we used it like a flag, not a feed. The rules lived at the top as a pinned message. Group rules, pinned. Logistics only, no rants, no medical details. Windows, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. check replies. Ask our menu, room, sa shift, soup, sa study, sa paper. Received allowed anytime, everything else waits. The first week, Tasha asked for a shift. Insurance call, on hold hell. Anyone cover 1 hour of slide duty at the park? I wrote yes and set a timer. Her little boy wore shoes that flashed like a small parade. At 59 minutes, she texted, received, and a heart. We closed the loop with same-day jar return. She handed me my soup jar back that evening with 2 oatmeal cookies wrapped like confidence. Sundays, I hosted porch tea. Not dinner, not brunch, just porch from 2 to 3 no. Doors stayed open, expectations stayed low. Sometimes 2 people came, sometimes 6. We swapped templates, email subject lines that don't scare teachers, 3-paragraph summaries, a one-liner for awkward neighbors. Awkward neighbor line, copy-paste. We're doing okay, thanks. We keep everything in writing with the right folks. I kept names off the porch and feelings inside the teapot. We didn't solve autism, we solved Tuesday. That matters more than the internet thinks. Church was trickier. I returned after the review hearing, sitting last row, aisle, our exit row. When the usher recognized me, he looked like a man who'd read comments. I offered him an index card instead of a speech. For ushers are greeters, copy-paste. If we step out, it's to keep the room kind. We'll return quietly. If anyone asks, we support families with accommodations here. He read it, smiled with relief, and tucked it in his breast pocket like a benediction. The service held. On the way out, a woman I didn't know said, "Is that his happy?" Because my son was flapping in the sunlight. "Yeah," I said, "that's his happy." Her hands fluttered once in the air, like a person learning a new language by greeting it at the door. I also learned to leave the rooms that wanted an audience, but not a neighbor. A mom's group on Facebook that had once been sweet turned into a courthouse with memes. I posted 1 sentence and muted the thread forever. I didn't discuss minors or health online. I kept this in writing with the people involved and, if needed, the court. Community shrank by 30 women and grew by 3. It was a good trade. If you need copy-paste to build your own ring, here's what worked in my zip code. The first text to a maybe friend. Hey, would noon 12:20 work to sit in the cafe and map our week? I bring a mini schedule and leave at 20. The soup DM. 1 jar today. Label says salted. Add water. Please return same day so my shelf remembers me. The study swap. Send me 10 questions you're stuck on. I'll time you 6 minutes tonight, then grade at 8:10. The paper RSVP. Forward the form. I'll read in the lobby tomorrow at 12 and send a 3-paragraph summary. The boundary that keeps the porch human. I love you. I don't do loans. Offer. I'll cover 1 hour while you call the tow. At 12:40, I'll read the shop estimate with you. I wrote those on a card and slid it behind tab 3, Community, because tabs make me brave. Not every ask went right. A dad I barely knew messaged, "Can you watch my kid all day Friday? Sitter fell through." My fingers wanted to type yes, because scarcity plus politeness is a love letter to people-pleasing. I pasted the line. I can't do that, and here's the small thing I can do. Shift 1 hour so you're not late. At 12:20, meet me to list 3 sitter options. He said, no worries. 2 days later, he sent a photo of his kid at the community drop-in I'd circled on a flyer and wrote, Found it. I put the message under proof because found it is better than thanks in systems that weigh results. I kept quiet hours, 24, after any hard contact, even with friends. It wasn't cold. It was how I kept our rooms safe. During quiet, I allowed received, nothing else. The first time Anna forgot and voice messaged a whole saga, I replied, "Received, talk tomorrow after lunch?" She said, "Right, sorry." And we were still us in the morning. Boundaries that are kept become furniture. People learn where to set their cups. The more I practiced small, kept offers, the more competence replaced chaos. People started introducing me like this. "She's the one with the binder." It wasn't an insult. It was a door. With that door, I could walk into a school office and say, "FYI, no action requested." And mean it. I could walk into a cafe and hold noon 12:20 sacred without apologizing in a paragraph. I could walk onto a porch and pass a jar like a blessing. When family tried to return with commentary, I used the terms card instead of a fight. Public noon 20. Split check, no history. Corrections tomorrow after lunch. Quiet hours 24. Some took it, some didn't. Community is chosen because family is not always choosable. The rooms we kept grew flowers anyway. The best moment was so small, you'd miss it if you like fireworks. Story time ended. The bubbles cleared. Kids swarmed the block table. My son stood at the edge, scanning for a way in. Tasha's twins made a bridge with their hands and said, "You can come here." He pressed my palm twice. I'm trying, and stepped under their arms. I wrote bridge on an index card that night and taped it to my fridge because I wanted to remember that community is a thing you make, not a place you find. By the time the review hearing rolled around, we had more than exhibits. We had rooms. Tuesday. Storytime knew our names. Thursday Park knew our stroller. Sunday Porch knew our soup jars and the difference between a rant and a logistics ask. The file would show appropriate and safe. The neighborhood would show kept and kind. Both matter. I promised you this would be practical, not a sermon. So here is your pocket toolkit to start Chosen Family this week. Pocket toolkit, copy, paste, and pin. Menu your yes. Room, see shift, see soup. Study, see paper. Windows, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. replies. Noon 12:20 meetings. Scripts. No, and here's the small thing I can do. City, the 12 at 12:20. We keep this in writing. Received, talk tomorrow after lunch. Micro, 10-week, bus fares, copies, 1 USB. Group rules, logistics only, pinned menu, received aloud anytime. Naming rule, WMM DD type, subject V. I kept those in my binder not because I love office supplies. I mean, I do. But because repeatable is kinder than heroic. We were building a life we could keep when the gavel sat down and the porch light clicked to dusk like it does every evening. Tomorrow I would turn back to paper, the proof that teaches systems to remember properly. Receipts, call logs, orders, and the line that moves everything faster than anger ever did. Please reply received. But tonight I washed a jar, wrote salted, add water on the label, and set it on the counter for the mother who texted headache, no dinner plan at 6:02. I replied, received, and added soup on your doormat, no knock. She wrote back 2 minutes later with a photo of a spoon and the words, "You kept it." That's community. Not the weather, which changes, but the furniture. A porch at 2, a menu at noon, a jar that comes back same day, a bridge made of small hands over a block table. None of it went in the court file. All of it kept my son's world soft enough to grow. Paper didn't love me back, but it never lied to me. After the specialist's report labeled our home appropriate and safe, I sat at my mother's table with a mug of tea and built the thing that would keep us steady when rooms forgot. A paper trail that spoke in dates, quotes, and exhibits, not speeches. I started with 1 sentence on an index card because sentences tame weeks. 1 binder, 1 cloud, 1 thumb drive. If I could keep 3 versions of our life, shelf, online, pocket, the next hearing or meeting wouldn't eat me alive. The kitchen table audit, 4 passes I could finish in 1 nap. Pass 1, gather. I dumped everything into a laundry basket like I was clearing a closet. Letters from Dr. Chen, Dr. Ramirez's report, the CPS business cards, the visit summaries, school notes, my 3-paragraph emails, the timeline, And the photos that look boring until a judge needs them. I printed anything that only lived in my inbox. Paper can't vanish into a spam folder. Pass 2, sort. I made 5 stacks on the table. Timeline and orders, medical and specialist, school, photos, releases and receipts, and slid a tab in front of each stack like a tiny flag. I didn't narrate, I sorted. If a page didn't fit, I made a 6th pile called Someday and promised to decide later. Pass 3, name. I wrote the file naming rule at the top of a fresh sheet so I wouldn't drift. EMMDD type subject feed. Then I renamed everything, both on paper, sticky notes, and on the computer. Boring labels saved me miles of panic later. Pass 4, map. I added a 1-page table of contents to tab 1 so any future stranger could find their way in 30 seconds. It looked like a tiny atlas. 2025-05-12, timeline rehearsal, CPS visit V1 PDF. 2025-05-13, order emergency removal, vacated, PDF. 2025-805, 14th report, Dr. Ramirez home assessment, PDF. 2025-05-12 packet, child, supports and timeline, sent to 23 p.m. PDF. 2025-05-12, note, supervised visit, summary, room B4, PDF. 2025-05-11, video rehearsal clip, frame capture, Joey 21-47-12 PDF. 2025-05-12, note, video chain of custody, V1 PDF. I slid the thumb drive, labeled with blue tape, Exhibits 1D, into a zip pocket at the back of the binder, because I like my future self enough to make her life easy. 3 piles that saved my sanity. I learned to sort the world into today, always, and if they escalate. That scale kept me from trying to climb every mountain on a Tuesday. Pile 1, today. What moved the needle now? CPS order, plus specialist report, printed, filed, and emailed to myself and Marcus. School FYI, no action requested. Thank you notes, short, scanned, filed as this helped. Safety edits photos, bookcase anchors, first aid kit high. Quiet hours, 24, logged with any received replies captured. Pile 2, always, the backbone I'd need in any month. Timeline, kept live and updated. 3-paragraph summaries after every contact. FERPA packet, IEP plus progress. Medical letters, pediatrician specialist. Photo log, no faces, captions like museum placards. Pile 3, if they escalate, only when needed. Public records requests for hotline call logs. Custodian statements for any video, audio, venue, or church camera footage requests, if applicable. Phone records for my line, to confirm times I answered or declined. I didn't chase the escalate pile unless paper told me it mattered. Adrenaline likes escalation. Binders like sequence. Scripts that turned rooms into rows. I pinned this copy-paste card to tab 1 so I had language even when my hands shook. Records, CPS, agency, public records law or state equivalent. Subject, records, hotline call logs, 0511 9A45 10 days 0 p.m. Child, initials. Hello. I request call logs and any audio transcripts for calls received 0511 between 9:45 10 or p.m. regarding child initials. Electronic delivery preferred, PDF, MP3. Please include date timestamps and caller ID info where legally releasable. Thank you for keeping this in writing. School, FERPA, clean plus specific. Subject, FERPA, complete educational record. Expedited, child name. Please provide the current IEP, last 2 progress reports, behavior plans, and any disciplinary notes. Electronic copies preferred. Thanks. Medical, HIPAA, release plus request. Subject, HIPAA medical records. Accommodations and visit notes. Child name. Attached, signed HIPAA release. Please provide letters regarding accommodations and any relevant visit notes for 2025. Electronic delivery preferred. Video custodian. Counsel only. Subject, custodian statement. Original source of rehearsal clip 05-11. Please confirm in 1 sentence that the attached file was recorded on your device on 0511 at time and has not been edited. Counsel attached for chain of custody. Thank you. I kept these because I learned that asking cleanly often gets you the thing you need without 3 phone calls. Building the timeline that wouldn't budge. I turned the timeline into a grid any judge could love. 4 columns. When, where, who, what was said, done, verbatim. I kept verbs, not adjectives. When, where, who, what, verbatim. 05:11 9:47 p.m. Church rehearsal. Bride, Mike. What is he doing here? 05 to 12, 10:06, 10:41 a.m. Home, Ms. Hayes, CPS. Concerning, covers, locks, mattress, blanket. 05 to 12, 2:13 p.m. Visit room B4, child plus staff startle. 4-6 breathing plus palm press. Calm, 30s. 8:05 to 13, 9:41 a.m. Court judge emergency removal vacated. 05:14, 4:58 p.m. Email Dr. Ramirez. Home appropriate and safe. I printed it and slid it under a clear sleeve. When fear tried to rewrite the week, Rose resisted. Redundancy is a kindness. I backed up everything 3 ways: binder, cloud folder, and thumb drive. The cloud had read-only links for Marcus and me. I didn't share the whole folder with anyone else. I shared single files on request. Generosity without limits becomes a mess. I also created a cover page for each tab, a paragraph that translated the stack beneath into one sentence someone could read before coffee. Tab 1, timeline and orders, chronology, plus orders proving supports, shearers, accommodations, removal vacated, all communication in writing. Tab 2, medical specialist, pediatrician and specialist letters confirm supports are medically necessary, home appropriate and safe. Tab 3, school. IEP plus letters confirm supports are typical, progress correlates with routine. Tab 4, photos, video, photo log, no faces, plus frame capture of 9:47 timestamp, chain of custody note. Tab 5, releases and receipts, HIPAA FERPA releases, receipt confirmations, received. The email subjects that never panicked a clerk. I kept a sticky with the subject lines that worked because subject lines are tiny doorways. Proof 0513, emergency hearing order, summary. FYI specialist visit, no action requested. Receipt request. Doc sent 2:23 p.m. Please confirm received. Records hotline call logs, 0511 9:45 10 p.m. I sent short emails and let attachments carry the weight. HR tone, kitchen voice. Receipts for the human stuff. I learned to file thank yous and good facts as aggressively as complaints. When Mrs. C wrote, he fell asleep, I screenshotted the portal message, saved it as 2025-05-12 note. Foster check-in asleep.tdf and filed it under tab 1 with a yellow clip. This helped. When the library replied, we'll save a spot near the aisle, I saved it in community. I added a 6th tab when life expanded. Systems that only keep bad paper become hungry. The 2-minute rule for anxiety. Anytime my brain began a doomsday monologue, I gave it 2 minutes to write a card for the binder. If I didn't have a card in 2, a summary, a receipt request, a photo caption, the task went to someday. Panic lost so many rounds to cards that month. Paper versus people. How I kept my heart. Every time a relative texted for an argument, I answered with terms. I don't discuss minors or health by phone or social. For logistics, email purpose, plus 2 noon options. Thank you. If they wrote a page, I replied, received. If they persisted, I stopped. Paper doesn't win fights. It stacks Tuesdays until the room changes shape or stops inviting you to perform. Either outcome is peace. My 2 a.m. fridge cards, I kept 3. Card 1, SPB, said once through wood. Status, I was safe. Plan, I met in public by appointment. Boundary, I didn't argue at the door or on the phone. Card 2, terms I actually kept. Public noon, 20, split check, no history, quiet hours, 24. In writing, no doorstep. Front desk, P.O. box. Card 3, next Thursday kept offer. No, and here's the small thing I could do. Room, shift, soup, study, paper. Thoo, 12, 12, 20. The cards kept my tone gentle and my terms firm. When I managed both, room stayed human. How I used the paper trail in real life. At school, I walked in with 1 page, a no action requested FYI, and a printed copy of any new accommodation language from Dr. Ramirez. "Thank you for keeping this in writing," I said. They smiled like I'd handed them time. With CPS, I sent receipt requests and then stopped. "Please reply received." That word became a lifeline. When I saw received, my shoulders dropped. When I didn't, the binder reminded me to resend in 48 hours without emotion. At court, Marcus used tabs like exits in a plane. When the county said concerning, we opened tab 2, medically necessary. When they said unverified, we opened tab 1, orders. When someone tried to narrate, the judge asked for conduct and paper supplied it. With myself. On bad nights, I didn't reread texts. I reread the order and the report. Then I set the porch light to dusk because ordinary on a timer is still grace. Copy and paste. Your starter packet. Pin this. Timeline template. 4 columns. When, where, who, what. Verbatim. 3-paragraph summary. Facts, terms. Next. Naming rule. YMMD type. Subject VR. Photo log guide. No faces. Captions like placards. Records requests. CPS hotline. School FERPA, HIPAA. Receipt request. Please reply received. If you comment your favorite subject line under this video, I'll pin clear ones as a free template for the next mom awake at 2 a.m., trying to remember the difference between a good email and a scream. What I felt versus what I filed. That week. Felt, post the clip and write a masterpiece. Filed, frame capture plus custodian email plus call log request. Felt, explain myself to relatives. Filed, terms plus received only plus quiet hours, 24. Felt, prove I'm a good mother to the internet. Filed, 2025-05-14 report. Dr. Ramirez home. Assessment. PDF behind tab 2. The paper trail didn't make me brave. It made me repeatable. I didn't need to be impressive. I needed to be findable by a tired clerk at 4:58 p.m. who clicked the right file because I'd named it like a lighthouse. That night, after I finished the audit, my son slept at Grandma's with the blue octopus tucked under his chin. I walked our quiet hallway, turned the porch light to dusk, and put the binder on the shelf by the door. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was furniture. Tomorrow would be less dramatic than court and less satisfying than a ruling. It would be the part nobody claps for. The middle, laundry, lunchboxes, 2 emails a day, 10 minutes of forms, and the long work of keeping a life boring on purpose. That's where paper shines. That's where mothers live. The week after, the specialist report didn't come with trumpets. It came with Tuesdays, lunchboxes, laundry, 2 emails a day, and the quiet insistence that a life can be rebuilt out of kept minutes. Court had given us structure. Community had given us chairs. The long middle asked me to choose boring on purpose, every day, until boring felt like peace. I started with a rule small enough to keep even on bad weather. 10, 10, 10. 10 minutes of paper. Update timeline. Send 1 receipt request. File 1 thing. 10 minutes of house. Reset the sink. Fold a handful. Set the porch light to dusk. 10 minutes of play. Read 3 pages. Build a 4-block tower. Throw the orange ball exactly 6 times. I set a kitchen timer for each because timers don't negotiate, and I let the beeps replace the voice that wanted to narrate doom. Money needed a rhythm too. Crisis eats your checking account the way comments eat your sleep. So I used the zero-based idea I'd scribbled on a napkin in the part 5 and made it livable. Zero-based life. Dollars and minutes. Every dollar and minute got a job before the week began. Nothing freelanced. Dollars. Sunday 12:10 p.m. $10 micro. Bus fares, copies, USB. $25 groceries. List and notes. $15 buffer. Kid emergencies don't apologize. $5 thank you. Stamps, notes. $0 internet fights. Non-negotiable. If extra came in, it got a job on paper before it got to party. Minutes. Sunday 12:20 p.m. Noon windows held my calls and quick meetings. 8 and 6 were reply blocks. Quiet hours. 24. Followed any hard contact. No doorstep ever. I wrote those on the fridge because when I'm tired, I forget the rules I love. I built a daily card I could copy by hand before coffee. Daily 10, 10, 10. Copy paste. Paper. 10. Update timeline. File 1 item. Send 1. Please reply received. House. 10. Sink reset. blanket fold, porch light, dusk. Play 10. 3 pages, 6 throws, 1, yes! I didn't have to earn. It felt silly until the emails, the sink, and my boy's shoulders started moving down instead of up. Boring worked. The binder needed a middle rhythm too. First days are adrenaline, middle days are maintenance. I made 3 recurring appointments with myself, tiny, named, and always at noon so my brain could find them. Monday, said 12 and 12:20. Monday map. Check the timeline grid, add any rows from weekend texts or forms, print a 1-page table of contents update if I'd added more than 3 docs. Wednesday, 12th and 12:20. Wednesday window. Send exactly 1 records request or 1 thank you. If there wasn't a request to make, I defaulted to gratitude because it keeps me from turning into grievance. Friday, 12 and 12:20. Friday folder. Close loops. Scan the week's paper. Rename files to the rule. Drop them into the right tabs and write a 3-paragraph summary if anything heavier than soup happened. I also gave the internet a grown-up bedtime. If a post tugged my jaw tight, I copied my pinned sentence and left. I didn't discuss minors or health online. I kept this in writing with the people involved and, if needed, the court. It ended more fights than my best paragraphs ever did. School lived in the middle with us. I sent 1 clean FYI each Monday with the subject that never scares teachers. Subject, FYI, this week's regulation plan. No action requested. Body, visual schedule taped, quiet corner stocked, breaks 5-2. If he startles after PE, please offer lap pad first. Thanks for keeping this in writing. On Thursdays, I wrote a 2-sentence note to myself about where transitions got sticky. Library change, loud cafeteria day, surprise assemblies. And I kept those notes in tab 3 so I could see patterns without inventing them. Family stayed complicated, but manageable. I didn't audition for their approval. I offered terms I could keep. Public, noon, 20. Split check, no history, quiet hours, 24. When someone sent a paragraph that smelled like bait, I replied, received, and filed it. If they apologized in 4 good sentences, I taped it under this helped and gave it 14 days before I believed it. Kindness after steady, my new religion. I made a relapse plan for myself because even good systems wobble. I wrote it on a card so I could read it aloud at the sink. Relapse plan, keepable. 1. Stop. Start a 5-minute timer. Breathe 4-6, drink water. 2. Name a noun. Timeline, jar, report, jar, order. Pick one and touch it. 3. 1 email only. Fax, terms, next. 4. 1 ask only. Please reply received. 5. Close the loop. Put the binder back. Set porch light. Dusk. Every time I used it, I wobbled less the next time. I also learned to pre-decide what to do when the next allegation showed up, because they often do when people discover systems like paper resist gossip. If CPS emailed, I replied with receipt, attached the 3 exhibits, timeline, medical, school, and asked for the concern in writing. If a relative texted, received. For logistics, email purpose, +2 noon options. If the unknown number reappeared. Please communicate through counsel, email. Pre-decisions turn panic into procedure. The long middle also meant teaching my son the next small independence without turning our house into a boot camp. We practiced self-advocacy as a script he could hold. Kid script. We practiced at snack. I need quiet. I need heavy. I need a break. Bonus. That joke hurts. He loved the word heavy. He'd press the lap pad across his thighs and whisper, heavy, like a person ordering the exact right thing at a diner. When he managed, that joke hurts, I wrote it in tiny letters on the inside of my wrist because 6-year-olds shouldn't need to say it to cousins with microphones, but sometimes they do. The house learned our middle rhythm too. I anchored the bookcase, moved the first aid kit, and made 3 stations labeled like a preschool, because the truth is, preschool is an excellent model for humans of every age. Entry, hooks at eye height, shoes left to right, visual schedule for leaving. Calm corner, lamp, beanbag, weighted blanket folded, 2 fidgets in a basket, not 20. Kitchen, clear counter square the size of a placemat. Nothing lives there so I can breathe. I also put a nothing basket by the couch, a pretty bowl where keys and grudges go. If a thought tried to ruin Tuesday, I wrote it on a scrap, dropped it in, and told it, "Friday folder will read you, not now." The phone stopped being a fire alarm. I set focus modes that matched my windows, do not disturb outside 8 and 6, and calls allowed only from mom's school, Marcus. When messages stacked, I triaged them like mail. Bills forms, go straight to Wednesday window. Feelings family, quiet hours, 24, allowed received. Logistics community, answer at noon if it fit. Room, shift, soup, study, paper. Somewhere between middle day 5 and middle day 12, I realized my shoulders were living 2 inches lower. The house looked the same. I didn't. I became a person whose sentences start with verbs and end with today. Because this is YouTube, and you might be listening at the sink, here's your copy-paste toolkit for the long middle. Pin it. Read it back to yourself with your kitchen voice. Bun, daily 10-10-10, put on your fridge. Paper, 10, update timeline, file. 1 doc, send 1 email ending with, please reply received. House 10, sink reset, 1 surface cleared. Porch light, dusk. Play, 10, 3 pages, 6 throws, 1 yes. 2, zero-based life, Sunday 12:10 and 12:20. Dollars, micro, $10. Groceries, $25. Buffer, $15. Thank you, $5. Internet fights, $0. Minutes, noon windows for calls, meetups. Replies at 8 and 6. Quiet hours, 24 after hard contact. No doorstep. 3, middle appointments, always noon 12:20. Monday map, timeline and talk. Wednesday window, 1 record request or 1 thank you. Friday folder, scan, rename file, 3-paragraph summary. 4, school and work scripts. Subject, FYI, this week's regulation plan, no action requested. After PE, offer lap pad first, breaks 5-2. Thanks for keeping this in writing. 5, relapse plan, stop. Name a noun, 1 email, 1 ask, received. Close the loop, porch light, dusk. The middle didn't mean nothing happened. It meant everything happened small. A cousin posted a vague status about people who play victim. I didn't screenshot it. I stirred soup. An anonymous email accused me of over-medicating. The agency logged it as unfounded after the specialist report. I logged it as pattern and went back to the Wednesday window. The rehearsal clip continued to exist, preserved and authenticated, lined up with 952 like a line of thread through a hem. I didn't need to pull it every day. It held. There were setbacks. My son lost his blue octopus at the laundromat and cried like grief. We practiced I need heavy with a throw pillow and a hug and ordered a replacement with the $micro because grief for a toy is still grief. A teacher sub forgot the visual schedule and the afternoon wobbled. I sent an FYI, not a saga, with a photo of the schedule and a thank you for taping it at eye level. She replied, received with a photo of the tape. We moved on. Work fit itself around the edges. I answered emails during noon windows and wrote in the 8 a.m. block with my coffee while my son lined dinosaurs along the windowsill. I used the naming rule for my projects too and found drafts in seconds I used to spend scrolling. Boring rescued my career more than any talent ever did. The long middle gave me back a flavor I hadn't tasted in months. Anticipation. Not the sharp kind that waits for a knock. The soft kind that counts Thursdays because the park loop is green. Because the twins will make a bridge. Because I get to be a reliable person in a world that keeps recruiting heroes. Reliable doesn't trend. Reliable keeps a kid regulated. At the end of each week, I made 2 lists in my planner because proof helps you sleep. What we kept. Monday map, Wednesday window, Friday folder. Quiet hours after a hard call. 3 pages and 6 throws every day but 1. What will adjust? 2. Pack the lap pad in the library tote. Put the spare octopus in the car. I tucked the page behind tab 1 with a small smile because my life looked like a clipboard and felt like a lap. If you're listening and you're in the long middle right now, here's the thing no movie tells you. Nobody will clap for this part. That's okay. The long middle is where your nervous system learns your address again. It's where your inbox learns to say, received back to you. It's where your kid learns that heavy can be requested and honored. It's where your relatives either learn the terms or learn to leave you alone. It's where you stop auditioning and start keeping. By the time the review hearing showed up on the calendar, I wasn't rehearsing speeches in the shower. I was printing the Monday map, highlighting Dr. Ramirez's line, appropriate and safe, and packing snacks because courthouses forget to feed you. I didn't feel brave. I felt ready. There's a difference. Brave is a moment. Ready is a rhythm. That night, I set the porch light to dusk and wrote one more card for the fridge, right next to SPB. Middle promise. Pin this. Gentle in tone, firm in terms, boring on purpose. If I can't keep it big, I'll keep it small, and I'll keep it. Tomorrow, we'd carry the binder back into a room that prefers rows to roomers. Tonight, we stacked 3 books, threw the orange ball 6 times, and said yes once we didn't have to earn. That's the long middle. That's how we got our Tuesday back. The night before the review hearing, I packed the way hikers pack. Light, repeatable, no speeches. The binder went by the door with a yellow sticky that read, yes, no, plus 1 sentence. I set out the black sweater that makes me feel like a clipboard. Grew sleeves, put 2 applesauce pouches in my bag because courthouses forget to feed you, and taped 1 more card to the fridge. Hearing morning, copy-paste. Print table of contents, 1 page. Top of stack, order, Dr. Ramirez report, timeline. Pack 3 highlighters, order report timeline. Answer mode, yes, no, plus 1 sentence. Ask at exit. Please email the written order. I'll reply received. At 6:10 a.m., I brewed coffee and read Dr. Ramirez's line out loud like grace. The home environment observed is appropriate and safe for this child. I highlighted appropriate and safe because some words deserve neon. My mother texted, "We're up," with a photo of my son holding the blue octopus like a passport. I texted back, received, and stuck to quiet hours, 24 for everyone else. By 8:55, I was on the courthouse bench outside Juvenile 2B with Marcus beside me. Same 3 lanes, he said, tapping the binder. Timeline, medical, school. We'll add specialist report as Exhibit D and rest with the supervised visit summary. He handed me 2 index cards. The first said, conduct, not memoir. The second said, we ask for a recipe. I smiled because this man had turned law into cooking instructions, and it worked on my brain. The county attorney arrived with a stack of paper and the face people wear when they want time without having to say why. Ms. Hayes stood behind her, the shape of a clipboard in a blouse. The guardian ad litem introduced herself, calm, concise, eyes on the exhibits instead of my mouth. I loved her in that moment for liking rows. The judge took the bench at 9:31 a.m., and the room stood like a polite wave. He summarized the file without drama. Emergency removal vacated 2 weeks prior. Child placed with maternal grandmother pending specialist home visit. Communications in writing. Review set for today. He looked over the rim of his glasses. Make your record, he told the county. The county attorney began. The agency wished to continue monitoring, wanted more time to observe, and raised lingering concerns about the mattress and weighted blanket. Words like concerning tried to put on their old coat. Marcus didn't interrupt. He let the pencil lines finish. Then he stood. Your Honor, he said, we proceed via exhibits. He handed the clerk our neat packets flagged like a stoplight. Exhibit A, timeline, updated. He pointed with a capped pen so the judge could track the sequence. 9:47 p.m. rehearsal clip, 9:52 hotline log, authenticated via counsel. 10:06, 10:41 a.m. CPS visit, then supervised visit regulation. At 2:13 with 4 to 6 breathing, then order vacating removal, then specialist report saying appropriate and safe. Rose, Marcus said softly, and the judge nodded like this was the meal he'd ordered. Exhibit B, medical. Dr. Chen's letter reclassified covers, locks, mattress, weighted items as medically necessary accommodations. Marcus didn't gild it. He read 2 lines, then moved on. Exhibit C, school. Principal and teacher letters, matching home supports, IEP excerpts, visual schedule at eye height, sensory breaks 5-2, lap pad available, progress noted when routine kept. Exhibit D, specialist. Dr. Ramirez, Marcus placed it last like a period at the end of a clear sentence. He didn't quote the whole paragraph. He simply lifted the words appropriate and safe so they caught light. Then he asked for a ruling that sounded like a recipe a tired court could follow without guessing. We request 1. return to mother today. 2. Note, supports as accommodations, not hazards. 3. Communications in writing. 4. Agency may offer voluntary services, not required. 5. Court to caution parties against unfounded reports, noting a pattern the agency itself logged. The county attorney rose to ask for supervision for a while longer. The judge lifted a palm. Counsel, he said, the specialist report is recent and specific. The school and pediatric documentation align. There are no safety deficits in the record. Supervised time showed rapid co-regulation. I will not extend supervision for the sake of comfort. We need conduct, not memoir. He turned to me. Ma'am, yes, no on a few items. Will you continue the routines and safety measures outlined in the specialist report? Yes, Your Honor. Will you keep communications in writing with the agency? Yes. Have you posted about these proceedings? No. If voluntary services are offered, will you consider them? Yes. He tapped his pen once on the desk. Return to mother today, he said, like a clerk stamping a form. Accommodations noted. In writing remains, review set administratively in 60 days, unless either party requests a hearing. Agency is directed to reduce any further concerns to documents, not adjectives, and to refrain from language that pathologizes supports. Counsel for the agency will circulate the written order by close of business. Anything further? The room exhaled. Marcus said, Nothing further. The county attorney said, No, Your Honor. The guardian ad litem said, Thank you. I said nothing, and everything at once with my shoulders. The hearing took 12 minutes that tasted like a year. Out in the hallway, I leaned against the cool cinder block and texted my mother home today. She sent back 5 heart emojis, then soup on the stove. Marcus pressed a copy of the minute order into my hand and spoke his normal benediction. Think like a clerk. Facts, terms, next. On the bench by the vending machine, I wrote the 3-paragraph summary before adrenaline made poetry. Subject, proof, 0527. Review hearing order, summary. Facts, court ordered return to mother today. Supports classified as accommodations. Communications in writing. Voluntary services optional. Administrative review in 60 days unless requested. Court noted no safety deficits per specialist report and directed agency to document concerns via documents, not adjectives. Terms, I will continue routines. Visual schedule, calm corner, mattress for waking proprioception, weighted items for waking regulation only, cabinet locks, door alarm. I will keep all communication in writing and send receipt requests for any submissions. Next, await written order, reply received, coordinate handoff time by email, send school, and FYI, no action requested. Attach order to tab 1, update timeline. I CC'd Marcus and myself. Then I walked my binder to the copy center on the first floor and printed 2 sets of the minute order because redundancy is a kindness. The email landed at 11:08 a.m. with a subject line that made me learn how to breathe again. Order, return to mother, 8:05:27. I replied, received, and forwarded a short FYI to school. Subject, FYI court order, no action requested. Returning to mother today. Supports remain as written. Visual schedule, calm corner, lap pad. Weighted items for waking regulation, sensory breaks, 5:02. No action requested. For your records. Thank you for keeping this in writing. Then I wrote my favorite boring email of the month to the agency. Subject, logistics, handoff time and location. Please confirm. Per the order, please confirm time and location for today's handoff via email. I'll bring our mini schedule and comfort items. Thank you. 12:22 p.m. Confirmation arrived. 3 p.m. Family Resource Center, room A1. I added it to the timeline and texted my mother 3A1. She replied, received, blue pajamas packed. At home, I made the landing strip. Picture schedule on the coffee table. Hug, wash, snack, tour, play. Weighted blanket folded like gravity. Lap pad ready. Applesauce on the counter. Laundry folded to look like a welcome instead of a job. I slid the minute order behind tab 1 with a yellow clip. This helped. And made a new porch card because even joy needs a plan. Return day mini plan. Copy paste. At center, hug, hands wash, applesauce sip, mini schedule in hand. In car, 4 to 6 breathing once at the first red light. At home, tour the schedule. Yes to one small thing first. Octopus, book, cards. After bedtime, 3-line log, 1 email only. Fax, terms, next. Porch light, dusk. 2:56 p.m. Room A1 again, but the red camera light felt like a sleepy eye today. My son walked in with Mrs. C and a smile that lived in his cheeks. We did hug, wash, snack. I handed Mrs. C a thank you note, short, no saga, and said, "Thank you for the blue pajamas." She said, "He likes the trucks book." We both looked at the child the way people look at the point of it all. The staffer checked a box. We signed. The door clicked like a period. At 3:17, the car turned left toward our street. "Home?" he asked. "Home," I said. "Working on it. Together." We counted 4 in, 6 out at the first red light because rituals teach your nervous system where it lives. He pressed my palm twice, I'm trying, and traced the Parasaurolophus crest with his thumb like we were stitching time. At home, we followed the mini schedule exactly like we'd written it. Hug, wash, snack, tour, play. He pointed to the calm corner, then to the bookcase I'd anchored, and said, "Safe." Not like a question, but like a label you put on a drawer. I let 1 tear do its job and blinked the rest back because paper had carried us here. Now Tuesday needed me. That evening, after he fell asleep with the blue octopus on his chest and the blanket folded at his feet, waking regulation only, always, I wrote the 3-line log that would become a souvenir I could read without breaking. 9:31 to 9:43 a.m. Review hearing, return to mother, supports, studies, accommodations, in writing, optional services, 60-day admin review. 11:08 a.m. Written order received, school FYI sent, handoff 3:00 p.m. confirmed. 3:17 p.m. Home, mini schedule used, calm, safe label, bedtime stable. I sent 1 last email to close the loop with the agency. Subject, proof, return completed. Please add to file. Handoff completed at 3 p.m., room A1. Child returned home, evening routine completed without incident. Thank you. Please reply received. Received arrived before I rinsed the mug. I set the porch light to dusk, turned the binder's cover closed, and sat very still in a house that remembered us. Because this is YouTube, and you might need something copyable the morning of a hearing, here's your pocket hearing kit. Pin it, print it, hand it your fear. Pocket hearing kit. Copy, paste, and keep on 1 page. Top 4. Exhibits timeline. Medical. School. Specialist. Highlight appropriate and safe. Answer mode. Yes, no, plus 1 sentence. Ask, please email the written order. I'll reply received. Recipe ruling. What to request. Return today. Supports, Suckleys, accommodations. In writing only. Optional services. Caution against unfounded reports. After, 3-paragraph summary. Facts, terms, next. School FYI, update timeline, set porch light, dusk. None of this was triumph. It was procedure. And yet, when a judge said today, it felt like a hymn I'd waited months to hear. We didn't win with a monologue. We kept our Tuesdays until the room recognized them as a place a child could safely sleep. Coming home didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a landing. Wheels down, brakes steady, tray tables up. I wanted to throw a party. I chose a plan. The judge had said today, but today still had a bedtime and a child whose nervous system needed proof that home was not a visit. So I treated the first 72 hours like aftercare for all of us. Quiet, repeatable, boring on purpose. I started with a card on the fridge before I unpacked the tote. Return plan. 72 hours. Copy-paste. Day 0, evening. Hug, wash, snack, tour, play. Early lights. Day 1, school. FYI, 2. 10 blocks. 1 outside loop, quiet hours, 24, except logistics. Day 2, micro celebration. 1 favorite thing, 1 thank you, 1 receipt. Day 3, tiny reset. Laundry, freezer soup, binder tucky update. No heavy rooms. I stuck it next to SPB and the middle promise. Then I taped a smaller card by the door because doors were where our trouble had started. Door line, home edition. We're resting the house. Please email purpose plus 2 noon options. Day 0 was simple on purpose. We did hug, wash, snack, tour. Play exactly as written. The tour mattered more than I thought it would. It told his body the furniture had not betrayed him. He checked the calm corner lamp, patted the anchored bookcase, and whispered safe, the way kids label drawers. I let him choose between octopus and 3 pages. He chose octopus, then fell asleep with the tentacles under his chin and the weighted blanket folded at his feet. Waking regulation only, always. I didn't answer messages except with received. I set the porch light to dusk like a timestamp that says we're keeping our ordinary. Day 1 started with the school FYI that never scares teachers. Subject, FYI. Regulation, plan this week. No action requested. Visual schedule taped. Lap pad and backpack. Breaks 5-2. After PE, please offer lap pad first. Thank you for keeping this in writing. They replied with a thumbs up and a line about trucks at circle time. I filed the emoji like it mattered because this week it did. For me, day 1 was 2 rounds of 10-10-10. Paper, 10. Update timeline. Order, handoff, first night calm. Send 1 receipt request to add the written order to the file. House 10. Reset the sink. Lay out tomorrow's clothes. Porch light. Dusk. Play. 10. Build a 4-block bridge and crawl under it together. We did 1 outside loop. The small park behind the community center. 20 minutes only. He watched the twins make the bridge with their arms like last time, then pressed my palm twice. I'm trying, and went under. I wrote bridge kept in my log because kept is the kind of word you can sleep on. The rest of day 1 was quiet hours, 24. People love to debrief events that are not theirs. I used kitchen sentences when the doorbell pulled the dog in my chest. We're resting the house. Please email purpose plus 2 noon options. If they pivoted to feelings, I pivoted to paper. If they apologized in 4 clean lines, I starred the email and set a 14-day reminder to believe it later. Day 2 got 1 micro-celebration. Not a trip, not a banner, just 1 favorite thing that felt like continuity. I let him pick blue pajamas all morning or the truck book 3 times. He picked both. We negotiated down to 2 truck reads and a morning pajama hour. I wrote a single thank you to the librarian who saved us an aisle spot and sent 1 receipt request to the agency. Please confirm, report, and order are both filed as received. Then I touched the binder like a talisman and put it away. The rest of the day I kept for Tuesday. By day 3, adrenaline had drained enough to leave a familiar ache. Cleanup. I ran a tiny reset. Laundry folded to look like welcome. Soup moved to the freezer. Binder table of contents refreshed. I added a new line to tab 1. Zo527. Return to mother. Day 03. Calm. Mini schedule used. No incidents. It mattered that a stranger could see in 30 seconds that nothing dramatic had happened. No incident is the music I live for. There were, of course, people and their stories. A cousin texted, "So can you admit you overreacted at the rehearsal?" Past me would have written a thesis. This me pasted the boundary. I don't discuss minors or health by phone or social. For logistics, email purpose, plus 2 noon options. She sent 3 more bubbles. I replied received and put the phone under a dish towel, the house version of a veil. Quiet hours can feel rude. They are rescue. Not all people came sharp. Mrs. C sent a final portal note. He slept through, octopus on chest, wishing you both well. I wrote thank you, short, no saga, and filed the message with a yellow paperclip. This helped. Kindness belongs in the record as much as accusations do. I also did a small reputation hygiene pass because places, offline and online, remember noise better than nuance. Reputation hygiene, 20 minutes, copy-paste. Church, 1 line to the usher who kept our card. Thank you for supporting accommodations. Library, FYI, returning, same aisle plan, no action requested. Facebook Moms Group. Pinned sentence, mute forever. I don't discuss minors or health online. I keep this in writing with the people involved. Contact list, moved repeat drama numbers to email only. Created a VIP list, mom, school, doctor, attorney. Privacy sweep. Turned off tagging. Set focus rules to allow calls only from VIP during 8 and 6 windows. I did not post a victory speech. We didn't win a debate. We resumed a life. Because this is YouTube, and I promised copy-paste tools you can keep, here's the kit that held my 72 hours together. 1. Landing strip cards, print size. Mini schedule. Coming home. Hug, wash, snack, tour, play. Kids script. We practiced at snack. I need quiet. I need heavy. I need a break. That joke hurts. Doorline. Anyone. We're resting the house. Please email Purpose Plus 2 noon options. 2. 3 emails that never escalate. School. Monday. Subject. FYI. Regulation plan. No action requested. Visual schedule taped. Breaks 5-2. Lap pad after PE. Thanks for keeping this in writing. Agency. Receipt. Subject. Receipt request. Order and specialist report. Please confirm received. Please confirm both are filed. Thank you. Community. Neutral. Subject. FYI. Back to routine. No action requested. Returning to our usual schedule. If you need anything from us, please email Purpose Plus 2 noon options. 3. The no debrief script. For well-meaning interrogations. We're keeping this in writing with the people involved. We're resting and we're okay. Say it once. Repeat only if asked again. Then leave. 4. Regression plan. Because bodies remember. If startle, feet on floor, palm press, count 4-6, lap pad, 3 pages, or 2 throws. If sleep wobble, pajamas early, lights low, white noise, mattress down for waking jumps, blanket folded at feet. If appetite dips, yes, snacks, first, applesauce yogurt, protein later, no commentary. I wrote that on a card because plans beat pep talks. Work needed aftercare too. I emailed my manager 3 lines that fed her calendar and protected mine. Subject, FYI, re-entry schedule. No action requested. Back to regular hours. Noon windows reserved for family logistics this week. Deliverables unaffected. If you need me outside those, please send Purpose Plus 2 time options. Thanks for keeping this in writing. She replied, received, and because good managers are a species worth protecting, added, take your Fridays at 4 to breathe. I filed her email under this helped. By the second night, the house remembered how to idle. He built a dinosaur line on the windowsill, aligning tails like train cars. I answered 2 emails during noon and none at midnight. The binder didn't sit on the table like a siren. It lived on the shelf like furniture. I still woke at 3:11 once, listened for noises that weren't there, and went to the kitchen to read Dr. Ramirez's line out loud. Appropriate and safe. It worked like a warm compress on my brain. The only risky moment came at the grocery store when a neighbor asked, so what really happened? While comparing tomatoes, I used the awkward neighbor line that kept me from bleeding out in produce. We're doing okay, thanks. We keep everything in writing with the right folks. She nodded, like the room had given her a script too. We each bought a tomato and walked away intact. On the last evening of the 72 hours, I took a pen to my planner and kept a tiny exit interview. 2 columns, 5 lines. Kept 3. Mini schedule every transition. Quiet hours, 24, after hard contacts. 10-10-10 twice a day. Adjust 2. Applesauce lives in the car now. Pack spare octopus in the library tote. Then I wrote 1 sentence on a sticky and slid it behind tab 1 where my eyes always land. Stability is a deliverable. I had spent months proving safety. Now I was practicing it. If you need a pocket version of this for your own return day, here it is. Make it your lock screen. Return day pocket plan. Lock screen text. Hug, wash, snack, tour, play. No debrief, no posts. Quiet hours, 24. Yes to 1 small thing. Please reply received. Dusk. We didn't win with fireworks. We landed with procedures and let days do what speeches couldn't. The next chapter would widen the frame again. How work, school, and the neighborhood kept saying yes to small, copyable things until the story wasn't about a hearing at all. It was about a boy who asked for heavy and got it, a mother who turned quiet hours into a boundary she could love, and a house that clicked its light to dusk whether anyone noticed or not. 3 days after the return order, I took my binder to the office like a lunchbox I trusted. The building smelled like copier heat and last week's coffee. Ms. Lopez, my manager, had already done the kindest thing a boss can do during a messy month. She kept our relationship in writing and never asked me to perform my pain in a meeting. I wanted to repay her in the currency workplaces, understand, deliverables. I didn't bring a speech. I brought a one-page status, green, yellow, red. I set it on her desk before she asked for anything. Status snapshot, copy-paste template, green Q2 deck, on track. Vendor renewal, signed. Bug 4819, resolved. Yellow, campaign B rollout, needs legal stamp by 2 p.m. Webinar assets, waiting on speaker bios. Red, none. This week, I'm blocking noon 12:20 daily for family logistics, deliverables unaffected. If you need me outside that window, please send purpose plus 2 time options and I'll confirm. She read it like water. Thank you, she said. This is exactly what I needed. She looked at me the way good managers look at people who just gave them time back and added, let's keep this every Monday. We sat for 20 minutes, not a second more, because I learned long meetings are where boundaries go to retire. Ms. Lopez asked one question that mattered. What do you need from me to keep this rhythm? I answered in verbs. Hold asynchronous updates unless a decision is blocking. Let me propose 2 options when I say no. Protect noon 12:20. It's our family's window. If rumors show up, route them to work product. Where's the deck? Not what happened. She nodded. Deal. Back at my desk, I built the work binder the way I built the court binder. Tabs, not drama. 5 sections, 1 page each on top. Tab A, week map. That 1-page green, yellow, red. Tab B, projects. 1-pager per project. Goals, owners, dates. Tab C, risks. What could slip? Who needs to unblock? Tab D, receipts. Approvals, received, ticket numbers. Tab E, scripts. Copy-paste language that saves me from improvising. I taped a card inside the cover like a seatbelt. Office SPB said once. Status, I was back and steady. Plan, I delivered on the map. I escalated in writing. Boundary, I didn't debrief trauma at work. I talked work at work. Then I sent 3 tiny emails that turned the floor back into a runway. 1, to cross-functional partners. No drama, just map. Subject, FYI, this week's delivery map. No action requested. Attached, 1-page status, green, yellow, red. If you need a live touch point, please send purpose plus 2 time options. Thanks for keeping this in writing. 2, to legal, so yellow moves. Subject, unblock campaign B, 2 items to stamp, Thursday 2 p.m. Attaching final copy plus asset list. If edits, please comment in doc by wed 4 p.m. so we can ship through. Thank you. 3, to myself, yes really. Subject, Anchor 3, wins by Friday. Vendor renewal signed. Deck V1 sent to Ms. L. Webinar bios wrangled. I kept that last one because brains like mine need a lighthouse at 2 p.m. Thursday. Gossip did what gossip does. In the kitchen, a colleague tilted her head and said, Are you okay now? I heard. I used the awkward coworker line I'd practiced in produce. I'm good, thanks. I keep personal stuff in writing with the right folks. For work, here's the deck. Then I opened my laptop, not my life. The thing that surprised me wasn't how much work I'd missed. It was how much noise I'd saved by switching to receipts over rage at the office, too. I started treating approvals, decisions, and feedback like exhibits. Approvals. I stopped waiting for looks good. I asked for approved to ship VPOs and pasted that line into the ticket. Decisions. I wrote decision memos with 3 bullets. Context, options, recommendation, then asked, confirm, in bold. Feedback. I routed opinions into commented docs. I stopped taking edits in chat where nuance goes to die. My favorite lever was a tiny line I added to the bottom of almost every note. Please reply received so I can file this. People rolled their eyes less than you'd think. Most of them liked how clean it made their day. I also learned to price my yes at work the way I priced it in community. Minutes, not martyrdom. When marketing pinged, quick favor, I pasted, I can't own the whole thing, and here's the small thing I can do. 20-minute review at noon or 12:20. I'll leave comments directly in doc. Half the time they said perfect. The other half they found another hero. Either way, I kept my job from eating the family that job was paying for. With Ms. Lopez, I instituted 2 rhythms that rebuilt trust faster than speeches. Monday map, and Friday wrap. Monday map, we already covered. Friday wrap, 3 lines like HR for your boss. Subject, wrap, week of 602. Done. Next, ask. Done. Deck V1, vendor renewal, bug 4819. Next, Deck V22, webinar bios mon. Ask, legal ETA on campaign be stamped by mon 10 a.m. She wrote back received so often it became a lullaby. Because the month had taught me to fear phones, I gave my team a focus rule for me. Focus rule, posted in Slack profile. Replies at 8 and 6. Live noon windows for decisions. All non-urgent items to email. If urgent, include urgent. In subject with a deadline. It stopped the quick call, ambushes, and turned emergencies into verbs. I brought the yes-no plus 1 sentence trick to meetings too. When the director asked if we could double output with no extra budget, I said, no, and here's the small thing we can do. Re-sequence campaigns and ship 2 high-impact pieces on time. Ms. Lopez backed me because I had given her a map she could defend in a room I would never see. I also wrote a relapse plan, work edition, for days when adrenaline tried to run the keyboard. Stop, set a 5-minute timer, name a noun, deck ticket doc, touch exactly 1 email, context, options, recommendation, 1 ask, please reply received. Close loop, file to tab D, receipts. It got me through a Tuesday when an exec swooped with tiny tweaks at 4:45 p.m. I pushed the deck one day with a receipted note and shipped a cleaner version instead of an apology with confetti. Not everybody learned to speak Rose. A coworker sent me a paragraph about how my tone in tickets felt clinical. I breathed, then pasted. Thank you for the note. I'm aiming for clarity because multiple teams rely on the record. If you prefer a different format, bullets versus sentences, I'm happy to adjust. I'll keep decisions and approvals in writing so we can move fast. He wrote, fair, bullets please. We both won. There was one conversation I owed that wasn't about decks. I walked into Ms. Lopez's office on a quiet Thursday with 2 sentences and a plan. Thank you for keeping our communication in writing and focused on outcomes. If you ever need a fast pulse on my bandwidth, I'll keep a capacity ledger in the status doc. She smiled and pointed at her own sticky. No surprises beats heroics. We were both raising toddlers, literal and corporate. We gave each other predictable. Here's the capacity ledger line I kept updated. Capacity ledger, always on status doc. Hours committed, 3440. Project specs. Flex hours, 6, ad hoc, noon windows excluded. Blackouts through 12 and 12:20. IEP call, next Fry 910, PEDs. It turned can you pick this up into a math problem instead of a personality test. If you're listening at your own desk and need copy-paste to start tomorrow, here's the pocket work kit that rebuilt my reputation without me narrating an ounce of my personal life. Pocket work kit, pin this. Monday map, 1-page status, green, yellow, red. Friday wrap, done, next, ask, 3 lines. Decision memo, context, options, recommendation, please reply received. Approvals, approved to ship vehicles, paste into ticket. Boundaries, purpose, 2 time options for live asks, noon windows for decisions, 8 and 6 reply blocks. Capacity ledger, hours committed, flex, blackouts, kept current on status. And for the human side, you can't put in Jira. Here are the scripts that saved me from turning colleagues into confidants when I really needed them to be teammates. Awkward coworker. I'm good, thanks. I keep personal stuff in writing with the right folks. For work, here's the deck. Swoop and poop, late edits. To keep quality, I'll incorporate these and ship tomorrow 10 a.m. unless you need the original plan. Confirm? The heroic ask, I can't own the whole thing, and here's the small thing I can do. 20-minute review at noon. Comments in doc. By week 2, the office remembered me not as a story, but as a system. Ms. Lopez started introducing me to new partners as the one with the Monday map, which is manager code for she won't surprise you or make you chase her. My inbox calmed down. My 8 and 6 replies became predictable enough that people stopped pinging at 11:07 p.m. out of habit. I took Fridays at 4 like Ms. Lopez suggested and used them to reset the sink, top up the soup jar, and print the table of contents for tab A, like a love letter to future me. One afternoon, a teammate said, You're weirdly calm, like it was a compliment and a question. Not calm, I said. Structured. Calm is a weather report. Structure is a thermostat. I can't control weather. I can set the temp. If you're rebuilding after a season that stole your breath, here's the last copy-paste to tape under your monitor. Work promise. Screen sticky. Gentle in tone, firm in terms, boring on purpose. Replace applause with receipts. Replace heroics with maps. Replace explanations with deliverables. By the time the 60-day administrative review showed up on the calendar, my job wasn't a flaming hoop. It was a ladder I'd set at the right angle. Home had its rhythm. Work had its Monday map. The binder had moved from siren to furniture. And I had one more chapter to write, the part where I tell you what I'd keep forever. What I'd hand to the woman who will find this at 2 a.m. with a browser full of tabs and a heart full of static. 60 days passed, not like a countdown, but like a metronome. The administrative review arrived as an email, was answered with received, and ended with no further action. No gavel, no violins. Just a Tuesday I could keep. By then, the crisis had stopped being a storm and started being a toolbox. This chapter was the list I promised, the permanent kit we actually kept when the rooms got quiet. I had learned that the things that lasted fit on cards, not manifestos. I taped 5 of them inside the pantry door, where flour and courage live. Card 1, the sentences. We said them until they lived in our bones. Doorline, authorities. I was happy to cooperate. Please keep all follow-up in writing. I'll provide documentation today. Doorline, home. We're resting the house. Please email purpose plus 2 noon options. Family boundary. I didn't discuss minors or health by phone or social. For logistics, email purpose plus 2 noon options. Unknown sender. Please communicate through counsel. Attorney email. Awkward neighbor, coworker. We keep this in writing with the right folks. For work, here's the deck. For life, we're okay. Those 5 lines were more durable than bravery. They kept tone gentle and terms firm long after I wanted to perform. Card 2, the rhythms. We set them once, then reused them. Daily, 10-10-10. Paper, 10. Update timeline. File one thing. Send one email ending with, please reply received. House 10. Reset sink. Fold one surface. Porch light. Dusk. Play, 10. 3 pages, 6 throws. 1. Yes, I didn't have to earn. Weekly, noon 12:20 always. Monday map. Timeline and 1-page status. Wednesday window. 1 records request or 1 thank you. Friday folder. Scan rename file. 3 paragraph the summary if anything heavier than soup happened. Reply windows 8 and 6. Quiet hours 24. After any hard contact. Allow received, nothing else. Meetups noon. 20 minutes. Public. Split check. No history. I kept those not because I like schedules. I do, but because rhythm reduced decision fatigue. Decision fatigue is where my worst paragraphs are born. Card 3. The paper. We stopped arguing and started filing. Naming rule. Immediate type subject VB. Example. 2025-05 E14 report. Dr. Ramirez home. Assessment V1 PDF. 3 paragraph summary template. Facts. Time, place, quotes. Verbs, not adjectives. Terms, in writing. Noon windows. Releases, consents. No phone. Next, what I send when, what I'm asking for. Please reply, received. Exhibits. Top 4 we could grab in any room. A. Timeline. Grid. When, where, who, what. B. Medical. Letters that say medically necessary. C. School. IEP excerpts. Progress when support's kept. D. Specialist. Plain words, appropriate and safe. Digital proof steps. 7. Save original. Make viewing copy. Log receipt. Frame capture with timestamp. Neutral cover note to counsel only. Transcript with time codes. Corroboration request. Call logs via counsel. Paper beat performance because systems eat documents. I stopped feeding them speeches. Card 4. The menus. So our yes never overdrafted us. Community menu. Room. Shift. Soup. Study. Paper. Room. Noon 12:20 at the cafe to map the week. Shift. 1 hour so you can call insurance. Soup. 1 jar. Return same day. Study. 2 10-question sprints. Timer screenshots. Paper. I'll read your form in public and send a 3 paragraph summary. Work menu. Monday map. Friday. Wrap. Decision memo. Monday map. 1 page green, yellow, red. Friday wrap. Done. Next. Ask. Decision memo. Context. Options. Recommendation. Please reply received. Capacity ledger. Hours committed. Flex. Blackouts. Kept current. The menus turned help into something we could repeat without turning me into a hero, because heroes burn out and reliable doesn't. Card 5. The kid scripts, so we had words we would honor. I need quiet. I need heavy. I need a break. That joke hurts. We practiced them at snack, not in crisis. The day he whispered, "That joke hurts," to a cousin who thought snark was culture, I said, "Received," out loud, and handed him the lap pad. We left without ceremony. Boundaries kept quietly, our furniture. The administrative review email came on a Wednesday. Agency notes compliance, no safety concerns. Communications in writing maintained. Marcus forwarded it with his single word. Attached. I filed it behind tab 1 with a yellow clip. This helped. Opened the fridge and wrote 2 lines in my planner. Kept. 3. Monday map. Quiet hours. 3 pages and 6 throws. Adjust 1. Move the spare octopus to Grandma's car. Then I stood in my kitchen and understood what we had actually built. Not a case. A culture. We kept gentle in tone. No barbs in emails. No stage whispering our lives. We kept firm in terms. In writing. Noon windows. 20-minute rooms. No doorstep. We kept boring on purpose. Timers. Labels. Cards. The porch light set to dusk like a daily amen. People sometimes told me I was calm. I wasn't. I was structured. Calm is weather. Structure is a thermostat. I could set the temp. I promised this would be copyable, so here's the 1-page permanent kit I printed for the inside of my binder and for the woman who might find this at 2 a.m. with a heart like a beehive. Permanent kit. Print this page. Sentences. Authorities. Happy to cooperate. Keep follow-up in writing. I'll provide documentation today. Home. We're resting the house. Email purpose. +2 noon options. Family. I don't discuss minors' health by phone or social. Unknown sender. Please communicate through counsel. Email. Awkward neighbor, weird coworker. We keep this in writing with the right folks. Rhythms. Daily 10-10-10 paper. House. Play. Weekly noon. Monday map. Wednesday. Window. Friday folder. Replies at 8 and 6. Quiet hours. 24. After any hard contact. Paper. Name files. Wimi D. Type. Subject V. 3-paragraph emails. Facts. Terms. Next. Please reply received. Exhibits. Timeline. Medical. School. Specialist. Digital proof. Original. Copy. Log. Frame capture. Counsel. Transcript. Corroborate. Menus. Community room. Shift. Soup. Study. Paper. Work. Monday. Map. Friday. Wrap. Decision memo. Capacity ledger. Kids scripts. I need quiet. Heavy. A break. That joke hurts. Promises. Gentle in tone. Firm in terms. Boring on purpose. Stability is a deliverable. We also kept something smaller and stranger. Celebratory boredom. On Thursdays, the twins still made a bridge with their hands at the park loop. On Sundays, Porch Tea still asked for logistics, only in the pinned rules. Tuesday, at Storytime, the librarian still saved us an aisle seat and made a bubble of space that felt like a hug with good boundaries. Work held too. Ms. Lopez kept introducing me as the one with the Monday map. I kept answering yes, no, +1 sentence in rooms that loved to overtalk clarity. My 8 and 6 windows trained people better than any Slack status ever could. The last loose thread you might wonder about, church, quieted itself. We sat back row, aisle, exit ready. The usher kept our index card. The bride learned to make amends in smaller ways, like opening a door and stepping aside. I didn't narrate that for the internet. I wrote small amends kept in my log and let time be the witness. When the anniversary of the rehearsal rolled around, nothing exploded. We made soup. My son lined dinosaurs on the windowsill, tails touching like train cars, and whispered heavy before he placed the lap pad across his legs. I answered, received, because I am, apparently, the kind of mother who talks like a clerk now. It worked. If you asked me what single idea I would hand you if I only had 10 seconds of your scrolling, it would be this. Replace applause with receipts. Replace heroics with maps. You don't have to be impressive, you have to be findable. By the clerk at 4:58 p.m., by the teacher at 8:02 a.m., by future you at 2 a.m. Who needs one file that says appropriate and safe in a font big enough to breathe? Because this is YouTube, and you might need engagement to remember, here are the 3 shortest prompts that held my life together. Save them. Text them to yourself. Make them your lock screen if tonight is loud. Please reply, received. It closed more loops than thanks ever did. Purpose plus 2 noon options. It turned chaos into calendars. Facts, terms. Next. It trained my emails to carry rooms I didn't want to live in. When people ask if I'm angry, I tell the truth. Sometimes. But the anger doesn't run the calendar. The cards do. And the cards are boring enough to last. That night, after the administrative review email, I did the most radical thing a nervous system like mine could do. Nothing. I set the porch light to dusk, washed a single mug, and left the binder on its shelf like furniture. My son pressed my palm twice in the doorway. I'm trying. And I pressed back, me too. We read 3 pages. We threw the orange ball 6 times. And I said yes, once we didn't have to earn. On the last night of this story, I stood in the doorway and watched my son line dinosaurs on the windowsill, tails touching like they were telling secrets. The porch light clicked to dusk the way it always did. Soft, on time, unremarkable. That was the payoff I hadn't known to pray for. Not applause, not vindication. Predictable. We had survived the rooms with benches and clocks. But the real win happened in rooms with rugs and cereal bowls. We had sentences we could say in our sleep, rhythms that held even on bad weather, and a binder that had turned from siren into furniture. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt kept. I poured water, folded the dish towel square, and said the quiet benediction that carried us home. Gentle in tone, firm in terms, boring on purpose. The anger still visited sometimes. I let it sit, handed it a document, and pointed it toward facts. Terms. Next. Systems eat paper. My life 8 days. One kept Tuesday at a time. My son pressed my palm twice. I'm trying, and I pressed back. Me too. We read 3 pages and threw the orange ball 6 times because promises count even when no one is filming. I tucked the weighted blanket at the foot of his bed, waking regulation only, always. Set the timer I don't need anymore, and listen to the house remember us. When people asked later what saved us, I didn't talk about judges or speeches. I said cards, 5 pantry cards and a porch light, a naming rule, and an email that ends with please reply received. A menu of tiny yeses that didn't overdraft our life. A mother who learned to answer yes, no plus 1 sentence and let exhibits speak when her feelings couldn't lift. I was not braver than anyone. I was repeatable. And repeatable turned out to be the warmest kind of brave. If you found me because your week feels like sirens, take the parts you can carry. 1 sentence you'll actually say. 1 rhythm you can keep. Even just 10, 10, 10 today. 1 file name so a stranger can find it at 4:58 p.m. 1 yes from the menu that doesn't make you a hero. Just reliable. The porch light clicked again. Habit, not miracle. That's the point. Miracles get headlines. Habits raise children. CTA, talking to camera, kitchen voice. If this helped, save this video so you have a script when your day gets loud. If you're walking through something hard, comment with the 1 sentence you're keeping this week. Your door line, your best subject line, or just the word received to anchor your rhythm. I read those, and I'll stack the cleanest lines into a pinned copy-paste reply so the next mom at 2 a.m. doesn't have to start from scratch. Share this with a friend who needs structure more than speeches. And if you want more practical, copyable storytelling like this, subscribe and tap the bell. Around here, we don't chase heroics, we build maps. Next up, I'm walking through a 1-page starter kit you can screenshot, timeline grid, 3-paragraph email, and the 5 pantry cards, so your house can keep its own Tuesdays. Until then, set 1 small thing on a timer, porch light to dusk, kettle to whistle, or a 10-minute block with your name on it. You don't have to be impressive, you just have to be findable. To the clerk, to the teacher, and to future you.